Ladies and gents, warriors, welcome to Warrior Enigma. Today's episode is a nostalgic recording for me because the guest and I deployed together in 2016 and 2017 as Task Force Trident supporting Special Operations Command Korea and have remained close ever since. Together, we trained foreign partner forces, prepared for a North Korean conflict that nearly broke out during our time on the peninsula, and ran amok as young adults seeking chaos in many forms. Before we hit full send on today's episode, let's check back in with my buddy, author and financial guru, Mr. B.D. Collins. Brandon and I sat down a few episodes ago and talked about using ETF investment strategies to create financial growth. He wrote a book, $1,000 to $1 million, Proven Strategies for Triple Leveraged ETF Success, which has been slowly climbing the Amazon charts and recently made its way into the top 10 in 3 different categories: financial engineering, both Kindle and as a book, as well as financial risk management. Reason being, because the market is down and people are seeing the upside to investing in a down market. During our recording, Brandon stated that a synonym for volatility is opportunity. This means that right now is a fantastic time to buy his book, expand your financial literacy, and if the situation is right for you, reach out and grab the current opportunity and make some money. If you're interested in reading his book, there are links in the descriptions as well as in the Instagram bio for Warrior Enigma. Follow the links, buy the book, make smart risk-based decisions for yourself. Easy day. Now, the gentleman sitting with me today is a U.S. Navy SEAL. After 6 years of active service, he transitioned into a reservist role and began contracting for a fabrication company. During his time overseas, he saw multiple combat tours and literally came face-to-face with enemy forces in a fight for survival. We speak about his upbringing, he shares stories from buds, and we talk about combat and his specific experiences serving both as a SEAL and contractor. The tolls of combat scar each individual differently. He opens up about his scars and how he has fought vigilantly to return home, both physically and mentally. He is a father, brother, friend, and warrior, both on the battlefield and in his life pursuits. Ladies and gentlemen, warriors, I am so blessed to introduce my good friend and fellow warrior, Mr. Lucas Cecotti. Everything aside that I know from you, which is going to be hard for me to not jump ahead, right? Because we have such a history. But where did you grow up? I actually don't know that.
Okay, so I tell everybody, like, I grew up in Texas. I mean, I wasn't born there, but that's kind of where I ended up, and that's where the majority of my childhood started. So, it's like I was born in Indiana as my parents were driving through, right? So, like every single one of the kids in my family was born in a different state. So my oldest sister was born in Kentucky. I was born in Indiana. My younger brother was born in Illinois, and then Jenny, my youngest sister, was born in Washington, in Port Orchard.
Oh, nice.
And then my youngest brother was born in Arizona, and then we moved to Texas. My mom was not pregnant again, but everybody thought she was, right? So
the road trips.
yeah, so we ended up staying in Texas, and then moving to the house that I grew up in, and that was pretty much like, where I went to the majority of elementary school all the way through high school, and then ended up joining the military, went to San Diego and pretty much stayed there ever since.
Okay.
Yeah. So
were you athletic type in high school?
yeah. So I did cross country, track, soccer, and football. Okay. And I never really liked football, but in Texas is kind of the thing to do.
Like a religion.
Yeah. So I had my hip knocked out of place one time, and I was like, you know what? I'm much better at running. I care about that more, so I'll just do that instead. So I was, all state, track, cross country, and ended up joining the military. I wanted to be a Marine my entire life, and like ever since I was about 3 years old, because my dad was Marine, his dad was Marine, a couple of his brothers were Marines, and then, one of them was Marine, one of them was Air Force, and then I just felt like it was my turn, right? So I was, planning to join the Marine Corps, and then whenever I was a senior in high school, I went to the recruiter's office and was getting ready to sign all the paperwork. And my assistant principal was stoked on it. He was happy that I was going to join the military. Actually, because of that, it got me out of a lot of trouble. Like whenever I would have issues in school, like this one time, I skipped class, but I didn't leave the school. I stayed in the school and just like bounced around to like all these empty classrooms.
Just social butterfly style.
Yeah, but I mean, so like they ended up finding out that I skipped, and then I got in trouble for something or another. And then the principal was like, "Yeah, you're good." It's like, you're not a problem. Like,
Nice.
You didn't go anywhere. You didn't cause any problems. You just didn't attend class. But I showed up track practice that day. So it's like, wait a minute. You were absent, but now you're here. What the fuck?
Yeah.
But another time I ended up getting in trouble on a trip because I was also in band too. So I got in trouble. We were like in Texas, like for this like state, like, like concert or whatever. I didn't perform, but I was a part of the band. So I showed up and hung out. That night, there was we had a block like hallway reserved. So I climbed out of the window, like it disabled the little lock. So my dad taught me how to MacGyver everything. So I climbed out over the ledge, went to the next room over, and taught the chicks next door how to disable the lock. So I went in there, we hung out for a little bit. One of the chaperones heard us. So I climbed back out, went through the window, and long story short, I ended up getting in trouble for that naturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then came back to school. And they're like, hey, on-campus suspension, all that stuff. So you're basically locked down. And the assistant principal made a bet with me. He's like, hey, I know you have a track meet coming up. Are you expected to win anything? And I was like, yeah, I'm a contender for the half mile, probably the mile too. And he's like, all right, we'll tell you what. If you win, then I'll erase it like it never happened.
Nice.
So I ended up being like one of my fastest races.
Yeah, dude.
So I won, and then he raced it. So it's like nothing ever happened. And the band director was pissed. It's like he had it out for me, and didn't work. So
nice.
So
but Marines.
Yeah, so Marines. So my buddy happened to be seeing walking past, saw me through the glass windows, and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I'm joining the Marine Corps." He's like, "Why?" And of course, all the recruiters were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm gonna go next door and check out the SEALs. You should come with me." At that point, I never even heard of a SEAL before.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So I grew up thinking Marines was the only thing, and that was it.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Which is, it's super funny because that's usually asked backwards.
Exactly.
Most people are like, "Oh, I've only ever heard of the SEALs."
Yeah.
They've heard of Marines and all that, but like as far as jobs go,
yeah,
everyone's always, "I want to be a SEAL."
Yeah. So I was dead set on the Marine Corps.
Nice.
I didn't know anything else, so that was it. And I wanted to make my dad proud, of course. So I was in there, and I was like, I've always wanted to check this out, so I think this is where I'm at. And he's like, okay, well, tell you what. You and I, you come meet the SEALs with me, check it out, see what it's all about, ask any questions you have. And then, if you just still decide you want to go Marine Corps, I'll go with you. So it's like, all right, cool. So I got a buddy now. Okay. And he was my best friend since, long as I can remember. And he stuck with me through some pretty hairy stuff.
Sure.
Just, taught me how to live on the edge a little bit more because I was a little bit more sheltered up until I met him, and then we started doing some things that I never got to do, and then also he never really had any structure in his life either. So he came over and he saw my dad as a father figure. Whether my dad knew it or not,
sure.
That was just something that he gravitated towards because he wanted something like that, some stability.
Yeah,
and so. The recruiter was asking me, it's like, okay, so you qualify for all these jobs. What do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be a Marine. And they're like, yeah, no shit. But what job do you want? It's like, what do you mean there's jobs? All I knew was the Corps and nothing else about it, really.
Sure.
It's like knowing what I know now. It's like, my dad, he told me some of the things that he did, what his job was, but I just never really put it together yet.
Sure.
So ended up getting this opportunity to do this field day. They had a Marine Corps drill instructor come out, and all these other recruits from all over Texas come out. So there's 400 potential recruits, all their recruiters, and they put us through a PT test. So during the PT test, they had all 400 of us go. We did everything, push-ups, sit-ups. I think we did pull-ups too, and then a 1.5 mile run. And at that point, I was all-state track, cross-country. So
right. You're primed, ready to go for that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we finished everything. The every single one of the events, no matter what it was, either I won or my buddy won.
Oh, right on.
And then the 1.5 mile, I smoked everybody because I was already I think I just finished or was getting ready to go to state. So I was good.
Yeah.
I finished, and then a minute and a half later or so, my buddy showed up. And I was like, oh, shit. So like while we were waiting, all the other recruiters are just standing around me like, well, I guess my guy beat him on the push-ups at least. And, my recruiter's like, actually, no. Yeah, he's like, fuck. So at the end, I was stoked. Like, I was like, fuck, this is awesome. Okay, we just, like hit the first step. And then I was expecting, to be a little bit more. And then at the very end, all the recruiters are standing around. The drill instructor's like, all right, this is the first look at, what it's like to be in the Marines. If you have any questions, talk to your recruiter. Bye. And I was like, well, that was super anticlimactic. Like I waited for this since I was like 3 years old, and now it was just kind of blah, Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, didn't really get anything out of that. So my buddy, he was like, okay, well, now we got to go check out the SEALs. I'm like, well, okay, cool. So I'm in school, like just normal day. I didn't know anything was going to happen. Then I got called to the office, and they're like, Navy recruiters there. And he's like, hey, we're going to go, drive over to like wherever and meet this team guy. I was like, all right, cool. Well, all right. Not knowing what was going to happen. We show up, get to the first location. He wasn't there. I was like, okay, well, now what? So like he had the wrong address. So we went to another location. He wasn't there either. It's like, all right, dude, this is not looking great. I think we're going to stick with the Marine Corps, It's
Even
like
the anticlimactic Marine, at least they showed up.
Yeah. I was like, the Navy isn't really panning out too well for me. He's like, trust me, dude. Like, it's worth it. And I was like, all right, I mean, if you say so, but it's not looking too great from this end.
Yeah.
So we show up to the third location. Lo and behold, he was there. And like, get out. And I see this giant man. And I'm like, okay. I mean, he's, looking a lot more impressive. And starts talking to us. He's like, all right, so like, this is me. Like, here's who I am. Like, so like first things first, we're gonna like change out, like, do the PT test, and we'll see how you guys do. And I was like, whoa, what? It's like, I didn't know we were gonna be taking a test or anything. I thought we were just gonna be meeting you. And he was like, oh no, this is a like, a physical assessment. It was like the PST.
Yeah. So
I was like, okay, well, I don't have any clothes. Like, I'm just wearing what I have right here. Like I'm going to school. Yeah. So he's like, all right, well, you can borrow my shorts. And I was like, okay, well, looking at you, you're a little bit bigger than I am. He's like, it'd be fine. Like, it's got a drawstring. So we're at the pool at Texas A&M, like, college pool. Jump in the pool, like the shorts are feeling pretty loose. And he's like, all right, so we're going to start off, like, evaluate your strokes. So do a Superman kick off the wall, transition to side stroke. And I was like, do what? Yeah. He's like, what part? I was like, the whole part about getting in the pool and doing the things that you said. Yeah. He's like, I'm not a swimmer. You don't know how to swim? I was like, no. So he's like, you're taking a SEAL screening test. You don't know how to swim. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could doggy paddle, but that's about it. It's like, save myself and, like, playing around in the pool. But, yeah, so he's like, all right, I have my buddy demonstrate, because my buddy was a swimmer. So he kicked off the wall. I was like, oh, okay, I could do that. So I kick off the wall, and immediately I'm naked. Yeah, the shorts come flying straight off. And so, like, I'm naked in this, pool, like in front of all these college students. And I'm like, okay, well, so I go back, find the shorts again, put them on, and everybody's laughing. So he takes off his rigger belt. He hands it to me and like put it on. Like, it's so big that it doesn't quite fit. So like I have to tie it in a knot. So now I'm set up, perfect, no drag whatsoever.
For sure.
Just this belt tied around a knot. So he's like, oh, I mean, we'll see what that does. I kick off the wall. I'm good. Okay. But so he works with me for about 20 minutes or so, like, getting the side stroke down. I'm not, obviously not great. I'm like, planing out in the water, just like plowing through. Sure. And he's like, well, I mean, it is what it is, but we got to move on. Yeah. So this time, like, we start the test. My buddy, like, he finishes way before I do. And I forget what the time was, but I ended up making it by about 30 seconds.
You made the minimum standard?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm like, well, fuck. All right, cool. I did it. I drank half the pool water. Yeah. But yeah, so immediately get out. And by the way, there's 6 of us here. Okay. So like, just from all over the place. I've never met these other guys before. So just my buddy and I. So we get out and immediately do the push-ups. pass that, no problem. Do the sit-ups, no problem. Do the pull-ups, no problem. And then a mile and a half run, I'm soaking wet. I got my school shoes on, and I'm just like clopping along. And now I'm working for it because like no break in between.
Yeah.
So
it's a whole different ballgame when you do all that beforehand.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm just like huffing and puffing hard, just like trying not to throw up the fucking pool of water.
I was just gonna say, when did you puke?
Oh man, like I think at the very end I was like, oh okay, this made me work for it. So like now, like I've immediately shifted. I was like, all right, I was pretty like skeptical about what was about to happen, and then like as the test continued, I was like, this is making me work for it. So maybe this is something that I actually want to move towards, like focus on. And then I was expecting to be like, the same thing. It's like, all right, cool. Have any questions? Ask your recruiter. Like, just kick us out. But no, he like lined us up and he was like, okay, you guys, you know what you need to work on. And, it's not just, okay, cool. See you later. It was, lined us up. Like he gave us each like, a shirt, if we passed. Only my buddy and I passed.
Oh, dang.
Everything. Yeah, so like some of the other guys, like they finished, but they didn't finish everything in the time. Yeah. So like, so I was like, all right, cool. This is a lot better. He's like, all right, so everything's done here. You're more welcome to leave if you want, but if you want to stick around and have any questions, I'll take you guys out to dinner, and we can ask. You can ask whatever you want, within reason.
Yeah.
And then so took us out to Freebird and had these like giant burritos. And just had us like, ask whatever. And so this guy's name was Nick Rocha. And it'll come back into this a little bit later. Yeah. But yeah, so like he was super awesome. Like he was he's a Christian. And like I told my dad afterwards, because my dad called me like on our way home. And he was like, where the fuck are you? Because I was like 3 hours late to get home.
Right, because you were just supposed to be at school that day.
Yeah. So he didn't know that I got pulled out of class by the Navy. He didn't know that I was taking a PT test. He didn't know anything. He just, all of a sudden, I wasn't home.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck? So he's calling me, and the recruiter's like, let me talk to him. So like I hand the phone over. I was like, I don't think you know what's about to happen.
Yeah, dude.
So my dad's talked with him, and he's like, with all due respect, Mr. Cecotti, like your son's 18 years old. He can make his own decision. And he just lays into him. I can hear it like through the phone. And, the recruiter's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I was like, yep, that's my dad. Yeah. So he was like, if I ever see that, he's a little bit more colorful.
Yeah.
He's like, if I ever see that motherfucker again, like, I'm going to like do some things to him. Right. And I was like, all right, cool. Hey, by the way, I don't think my dad ever wants to see you, so you should probably not talk to him. Yeah. So fast forward a little bit, my dad ends up like talking to, this SEAL. So I don't know about like the meeting that they're going to have. So I just show up one day from school, and all of a sudden I see this like black SUV in the driveway. I was like, okay, well, we never have visitors. So I park my car. All of a sudden they come out of the house, and it's Nick, my dad. I don't remember if his family was there too, but like, they were talking, and they, started hugging. And I was like, what the fuck was that all about?
Yeah.
And he like, shakes my hand and he leaves. I was like, okay. And then so I was like, what was that all about? And he was like, well, I just met, Chief Rocha, and like he's a pretty impressive man. Like I was full up in arms, like, ready to tell him off. Like, my son's gonna go in the Marine Corps. And he ended up like, starting off with like, hey, before we say anything, I just want to, like, I'm a man of God. I just want to pray and just, start this meeting off right. And my parents really liked that because, they, we would go to church all the time. Like we had a church, in town. And so like starting that off, like diffused the situation right away.
Oh, wow.
And they ended up having this like long conversation beforehand. So whenever I showed up, like I guess he dropped off a stack of like CDs, like the Class 234 documentary.
Yeah.
So he's like, this is everything that he's going to be going through. So he should probably watch this and see, and and then if he still decides,
dude, he's going above and beyond to get you.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time, but like he told my dad, he's like he didn't even know how to swim before he started this test, and it's unheard of for somebody to learn on the spot.
Yeah.
Take the test and pass it their very
Right.
first time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so he's like, this is something that, we are looking for, somebody that's going to learn quickly and somebody that's going to, like be what we want in the teams, because you're going to have to do that. Like, going through training, like they tell you one time, and if you don't do it right, you only get so many chances, then you're shit canned.
Yeah.
So, I watched the videos start to finish. My mom actually like copied them on a VHS. So that we could have the stack, and then he could, take them back and like pass them on to somebody else. I had these VHSs that I was just going through like every single day, and I watched all of them like straight through.
Yeah,
And
got you hooked.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So I was watching like, fuck yeah, this looks fun.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, this looks miserable. So fast forward a little bit more, I ended up going to boot camp. I want to say, so I signed the papers in May, and then went to MEPS and everything, and then got to boot camp, and then I was expecting to be in like a spec ops division. They didn't exist yet, so this is like before like all the divisions were kind of like, you are going to BUDS or a spec ops program, so you'll be in this division together, and you focus on that, getting in shape, getting ready to go. So we were kind of on hold for about a month or so before we even started. So they pulled us off, and they're like, hey, you guys are no longer going to be a spec ops division. So they split us up, put us in some regular divisions. We ended up going through with them. They treated us like absolute shit, because they're like, hey, you guys are special. You think you're special, but, we're not going to treat you like that.
Yeah.
So they treated us complete opposite.
Yeah.
Treated us special in the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was fine, because I was learning how to be in the Navy. So obviously, like, I'd be with all these Navy people, right? Mm-hmm. And later on, we ended up like going to BUDS. We had,
So you and your buddy went at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
cool.
we went under the buddy program. So like we were,
that's right. I forgot about that.
yeah. So like we were guaranteed to like make it through boot camp together, and then
Then it was
get
teach
to
their own.
BUDS.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like from there, like pass fail, like we would be together until one of us like split off.
Sure.
And so he ended up making it first week of first phase. We both got sick the same night, and like we had the VG from the Bay.
Yeah.
And so like we were shitting our brains out. It's like like Friday night, Thursday night, getting ready for inspection on Friday, and like I woke up and I was just feeling like dog shit. Like he disappeared. I don't know where he went, but like we were lined up for chow. Like we ran across the street. And I'm just doing everything I can not to pass out on the run. A mile from the barracks to the chow hall, you eat chow, and you go a mile back to like start the day.
Yeah.
And so I run there. I don't even know how I'm standing up, let alone running. I get all the way to the chow hall, and I'm like hunched over, like I'm about to pass out. And I was like, the corpsman comes over, and he's like, hey, what's up? And I was like, I don't feel good. I feel like I'm gonna, just go tits up. And like he, felt me in. He's like, yeah, you got a pretty bad fever. He's like, so run back to the, to the barracks. Like, medical is right there. So ran a mile back, got to the medical. They checked me out. They're like, yeah, they gave me an IV of fluid, gave me some other meds and stuff. And they're like, yeah, you got VG, like, you just, SIQ, like stay in your room and, try again Monday. So after I left, I see my buddy walking back from the grinder area. I was like, dude, what's going on? Where are you coming from? He's like, yeah, I just quit. I'm like, motherfucker. I was like,
no way.
Why? He's like, I just felt like shit. I can't. And I was like, I did too. I went to medical, and now I got SIQ. I'm continuing on. Like, what the fuck? Like, we agreed if one of us was feeling shitty, like, we'd talk the other one out of it. It's like, you didn't even talk to me. So I ended up continuing through. He went to XDiv, and then like just a shithole of a place. Like some of the stories that I've heard from other guys was just, that place is a nightmare. It's like nobody was controlling it, nobody was regulating it, and then all of a sudden, like he ends up in the psych ward.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's like all this stuff that was happening. There was like stuff going in and out that I don't know to talk about, but yeah. So he was just like had this breakdown, and like his mom called me and told me about it because I had no idea. He just disappeared all of a sudden. So his mom showed up got a hold of me, and we went over to Balboa, and I went and saw him for the first time since he disappeared, and I guess he'd been there for a while, and so he didn't even recognize me. He didn't even recognize his own mother.
Oh my gosh, man!
It was that bad. He just looked like a shell of a person, just like hollow, just walking around. Just he wouldn't look at us. He just looked through us, and it was like, what the fuck happened?
That's wild.
Yeah, he just had a complete cycle break, and later on he kind of told us what happened. It was just no substance abuse or anything. It was just everything that he was exposed to just broke him. And then that was his first time actually failing something. So he was not in a good place.
Sure.
So so anyhow, I ended up making it through. The rest of
what class were you?
I started with 269. I got rolled twice. I got rolled in first phase during Hell Week for SIPE. It's like I made it to Wednesday. I was standing in line for med check, and I coughed in my hand, saw a bunch of blood, and I was like, oh, that's not right. So I wiped it off, and one instructor saw me. So he grabbed me, like, cough again. So, ended up checking out my lungs, and my lungs were 80% full of fluid.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they're like, yeah. So we're gonna pull you back. Start over at the next class. It'll be good. And I was like,
yeah, it'll be
good. Fun joke. Yeah, but I'm gonna go back to my class because we're still in it. Because they were playing all these fuck games with everybody. It's like some guys fall asleep and they sign a little fake DOR shit. It's like, hey, you already signed it, so
right, mental games.
Just put your helmet down. So
did they get anyone with that?
Oh yeah, they got people all the time.
No shit.
And sometimes they got people they're like, hey, you signed it, and they're like, oh fuck, and they're like, okay, so they go and actual quit. They're like, well, we were joking, but if you're gonna quit, we're not gonna stop you.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So
that's pretty dirty.
Yeah. But I mean,
what it is.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to do it there, they're probably going to do it when it really matters.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was just one of those things. I thought that was happening to me, and turns out it wasn't. They're like, no, you actually might die. I was like, well, cool. If I get to Thursday night, you guys will roll me forward, though, right? They're like, you might not even make it to tonight. I was like, I feel fine. It's like, I think I'm good. It's like, just normal, beat down, daily type deal. It's like, this is nothing, It's like growing up, I had some of the worst beatings, if not from my childhood, from track and cross country practices. I pushed until I passed out before, so it's like, this was nothing for me. I didn't feel it. So finally they did a stress test on me, and apparently I failed it. I don't know what the numbers were that I was looking at, but they're like, yeah, your heart rate and your O2, saturation was just way out of whack. So you actually need to stop. You're not getting dropped. You're just getting rolled back. Yeah. You'll start with the next class. And finally I was like, all right, whatever. So they put me in this room with all these guys that just quit. So I'm on suicide watch now. I'm like, what the fuck? So I lay down on the cot, I fall asleep, and as soon as I wake up, I'm like, holy shit. I couldn't breathe at all. I was like,
oh boy.
Oh, they weren't joking. It was like everything finally caught up with me, So
all the adrenaline dumped out.
Oh yeah. And I legit could not breathe. I was like, what the fuck? And they're like, yeah. They said that, you were going to die, so it's happening. And I was like, they gave me an inhaler. So they gave me this inhaler, and like I said, anytime you feel you can't breathe, just take a hit from this thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. So a week went by, and they put me back in training again. And I'm like, I don't think I'm ready yet. I still have problems breathing. So they whenever you first show up, you have a white shirt.
Yeah.
And then at the time we had our BDU bottoms, so it's the Woodlands.
Yep.
And so we had this white shirt, and if you had any medical issues or you're not cleared yet, you had to Sharpie a red cross on your shirt. So I was rolling around with a red cross, and they're like, all right, fucking demo pits, run, go. And I'm like, I have a red cross. So well, I don't fucking care, go. So I had that cross on for maybe a day or two, and then they're like changing into white shirt again, you know? So I was like, still don't feel good, So eventually, I got healed up again. I started over from the very beginning before in doc and everything.
Damn.
So For me, it was the most miserable place to be because I'm basically starting over from before day one.
Yeah.
And I know everything that's about to happen. So I'm the most depressing person to be around because I'm like, everybody else is stoked. Like, yeah, we're going to fucking kill it. I'm like, yes, suck it. You're like, you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
And then, so start first phase again, get through everything. And I'm like, God damn it. I remember this part was the part that almost killed me, And then, it's like we had this like the beehive was one of them. Beforehand, there was a like a 50-meter underwater swim. I was stressing about that the very first time. So I get in the water, I do the front flip, and you start swimming, and I finished no problem. This time, I was already under the assumption that it was easy the first time, no problem. I jump in the water, do my flip. I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot to take a breath.
You got too lazy, dude.
I did. Yeah. I got super complacent. I was like, yeah, that's fucking no problem. I already know what's happening. And then I struggled all the way to the wall, turned around. So you get to kick off the wall on the other end. I kicked off the wall and I'm already chicken necking before I even get to that wall. And I'm like, oh fuck. So I remember as soon as I got to the wall on the finishing side, I got to the wall, instructor grabbed me and brought me to the surface. This time I was expecting the same thing. It's like, all right, as soon as I touch the wall, I'm gonna get fucking rocketed to the surface. Nope. I was blacking out. I'm like, where's my assist? Oh God. So I got to the surface, oh fuck. That was way harder this time. But yeah, so all that stuff aside, I ended up getting to Hell Week again. Got to that Wednesday of Hell Week, and after that point, I was motivated again because everything was new now.
Right.
So it's made it through, got my brown shirt, got to second phase, and I got rolled for the tread. It's like I was a rock in the water because I could not float for shit. Even during
you just fucking learned to swim.
I did, yeah. And my body was super dense, so I could hold my breath, have a mask on full of air, and I could lay on my back at the bottom of the pool. And people were trying to get me to float, and I'm like, I don't float, no matter what I do.
It's a lot of work to stay up on surface.
Exactly. Yeah. It's even during drown proofing. It's I'd have my hands and my feet tied. And I would have to kick around in a circle just to stay on the surface.
Oh, shit.
So, if I stopped, I would just sink. No matter how flat I am or, trying to, float. Yeah. It didn't work. So, so I drowned 4 times, near drowning. So, you pass out and they bring you back, slap of life. So, that happened to me 4 times. And afterwards, I had a performance review board. So, there was 5 of us standing there, and they brought us all in. They're like, all right, we're going to review your records, send you out, and then bring you back in again. So, they won't make a decision if we're going to keep you or drop you, So, they brought us all back in again. We're all standing there tall, and they're like, all right, so drop, roll, drop. And I'm standing there it's like, oh, fuck, I got rolled. I was like, all right, cool. And the instructor's like, it's the only reason, you motherfuckers getting dropped and he's getting to stay is because under pressure, you ditched your tanks, you grabbed one of the instructors, you ditched your weight belt, you inflated your life vest. And I'm sitting there thinking,
I drowned multiple times.
I was the only dumb motherfucker that didn't think to save myself. So a lot of buds is just dumb luck sometimes.
So Derek Weida is a athlete for First Form. He's also a prior military guy.
Yeah.
Lost a leg. Have you heard of Derek? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has a T-shirt that says "Too stupid to quit."
Yeah.
But it's spelled wrong. And
dude. Yeah. I love his videos.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. That reminds me of that. Too stupid to quit. You're like, oh, dude, I didn't even think to save.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's part of it too. It's there's a big part of it's physical, another big part of it's mental, and then another piece of it's just dumb luck. Because I've seen some guys that were stellar in everything, didn't quit, didn't do anything, but then had an accident, and this one guy fell off the spider wall during the O course, and nothing crazy, just just landed wrong, broke his femur. It's he had a stress fracture started or something, and then that fall just finished it off, and he couldn't never recover after that. It's so there's a lot of guys that they quit, and then they later on they're like, oh no, the instructors didn't like me, or I had some medical issues. It's no, there's legit guys that actually would have made it, in my opinion, but they had some accident and just fucked them over. Like there's two twins whenever I was going through. One of them made it. The other one, he got trampled on, like, during Hell Week. Like, he fell out, and then like two boat crews behind him, like, trampled over him, like, ran over him.
Savage.
Yeah, and just like, we're all like in a daze, just like, go straight ahead, and didn't react, didn't move out of the way, and he broke his fibula and tibia, and I think he fractured, like, a hairline fracture in his femur, and he couldn't ever run again. Like, he just could not do it anymore. So one of the twins made it, and the other one didn't.
Just because of that incident.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was crazy because you never know, like, who is actually going to make it. Like, while I was going through the first time, I would see guys, I'm like, that guy's a fucking stud. I'm going to stick with him. And if he's still there, I'm still here. And then he would quit like day one. It's like, okay, I guess that guy's next. And then he would quit. And then, like, pretty soon, like, you'd be whittling down the class.
Yeah.
We started with like 360 people, my first class. And then by the end of it, we ended up graduating with like 44.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So it was a pretty good dropout rate.
Yeah.
Man, everything. Like some of these like monsters of men are just gone. And that was the thing that my dad told me. He was like, yeah, I don't know if you can do this because like all these like SEALs, like they're like, like the cream of the crop. Like, you get like these juggernauts and you're too small.
Oh,
you're going to hold them back and all that stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, but ultimately that ended up being my driving factor. Because like everybody has something that drives them. It's like, some people like, came in for the signing contract, and I mean, yeah, it was nice to like have that like in the background, but I never even thought of that. Like whenever it came time to like, okay, it's getting hard. I'm starting to think maybe this isn't, quite for me and all this stuff. It's like, what am I going to do? It's like in the back of my mind, my dad saying that, I was too small. I didn't know how to swim. Like, I would hold everybody back. Like that was the thing. I was like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to keep doing this just because you said I couldn't.
Yeah.
Man, it got me through. It's like, there was 3 times in particular during buds that I thought about quitting.
Yeah.
Like, the first time was during forever lunges. We had this like log and we lunged forever during that entire 3-hour evolution. It's like every single step of the way. And they're like, all right, hey, we got a new exercise now. It's called lunges. Go. It's like, God damn it. And so like we lunged like all the way like around the demo pits the O course forever, and then like just did things in place, and then we lunged all the way down to the demo pits and back. And at one point, like we had like 3 people on our log now. Like you start off with like 7 or 8 or whatever the number was. But then, like, people just start dropping off left and right. Yeah. And we got so far behind that, like, we didn't have anybody else to, like, backfill us. They didn't reorg us at all. So we had 3 people left.
Oh,
and
my God.
This one dude.
So not only are you losing manpower, but you're gaining weight with every loss. With
exactly.
No backfill.
Yeah. So, like, I'm looking up ahead. I'm like, oh, fuck. And, like, we're in soft sand, too. So, like, we're lunging every single step of the way. My legs are jelly. I'm like, fuck, well, this is horrible. It's like, I don't know how much more of this I got. It's like, I'm looking up ahead. I'm like, I don't know if I can catch up to these people. And one of the guys on our log's like, I think I'm done. I'm like, motherfucker, if you quit now, like, I think everybody else in this log's done too. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to stay with you guys until we rework, but then I'm out. And I remember thinking like, okay, well, if he's going to stick around, I'll stick around too.
Yeah.
So just kept pushing. We finally got to the other logs, and they reorged us. And true to his nature, he stayed with us until then.
And then he bounced.
Yeah.
Dang.
So like that was the thing that just got me over the edge though, because as soon as that was done, I was like, okay, I mean,
I'm already here.
Yeah. So I'm staying. It's like that was the thing that I needed just to get me through. It was like every step of the way that seemed like there was always something. And like later on, so I got another story for second phase, but yeah, it was just every single step of the way, it was like something that just kept me around that little bit more, just to get through.
Yeah.
And then, whenever I got to second phase, it was the tread. Like, I drowned, got recycled, and then with the next class, I drowned 2 more times, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I thought I was smooth sailing from here because I trained like during that time that I was waiting to class up again. Like I trained every single day at the pool to Ty Woods was one of my instructors.
Yeah.
And so like he showed up and like he was like, all right, what did you fail? It's like the tread. He's like, all right, carry this dumbbell. It's like tread with this dumbbell. I'm like, okay. So yeah, like every single morning I look forward to almost drowning every day, you know, up until, you know, I classed up again, then drown again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that seventh attempt was the attempt that I finally figured it out. But the night before, I went back and I was like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? And I was like, I haven't had any problems with anything up until this point. Now this is a major roadblock for me. It's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And then it was just like somebody clicked the light bulb for me. And it was like, you know, you've been trying to do all this yourself, but you're not alone. And like, you know, whether it's like, you know, with the people around you or not, it's like, you know, it was like God was speaking to me and saying like, you need to ask me for help and I'll give it to you. And that moment was like a moment of clarity that I'll never forget, because as soon as I realized that, I started praying and I started asking for help and, you know, just thanked him for giving me the opportunity to be here and like to get this far.
Yeah.
And just put my mind at ease. So I fell asleep praying. I woke up.
Oh, no kidding.
Started praying again. And then, like, you know, from the barracks to the chow hall, prayed every step of the way. Got to the pool, was praying on the prayer deck, the pool deck. And then one of the guys that was sitting next to me, he was freaking out. He was like, motherfucker, you know, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to do this. Like, this is bullshit and all this stuff. And I just reached over and I started praying for him, like, you know, just like touch his knee. And afterwards, he's like, dude, you don't know how much that meant to me. It's like, I'm a believer. And like, that helped me out.
That's cool.
So we got in the pool and I don't even know how many people there were, but there was quite a few. And during that evolution, only him and I passed that day.
No.
So, and it felt like I was weightless, because before I would get to like maybe a minute and 30 and then I would fucking drop my hands and fail. And I'm like, well, fuck. But you have to like keep going, because like, you know, they're like, well, just because you failed doesn't mean you're done. Like, you're going to keep going.
Yeah.
So that's where like I would go into muscle failure and fucking pass out underwater. So that time I felt completely weightless. And I was just saying, like, I can do all things through God who strengthens me. I come up, take a breath, go back under the water again, say the same thing over and over again. Before I knew it, they're like, time, go to the wall. And I was like, what? You said time, go to the wall? And they're like, Cecotti, you dumb motherfucker, you finally passed. And I was just smiling like ear to ear. Like, you know, I came back, and like, you know, him and I were the only ones that made it that day.
No,
and I was like,
shit.
All right, got it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, ask for help and you'll get it.
Dude.
And
major lesson there. Like,
huge,
that's
yeah. So
that's
every
cool.
single time, like, you know, I was struggling, I just remembered like, okay, ask for help. And it popped up several times in my career too. It was like, you know, we had some times where we were in some pretty hairy situations.
Yeah.
Like, we were on this mountain one time. There was this lightning storm that was coming in. You could see like these dark, ominous clouds. We were on top of a mountain. So these clouds just engulfed us. And you could like feel the lightning in the air. And I saw this one bolt of lightning like streak overhead, and it felt like it was just barely above us. And I started praying, and then within like minutes, the whole thing dissolved. It's like there was no black in the sky anywhere. And I was like, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, buddy.
And I got back down and I was like, did anybody notice those clouds? And they're like, yeah, that's why we went down. I was like, did anybody like feel the lightning? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, did you notice it just disappeared all of a sudden? They're like, yeah, I did think that was kind of weird. I was like, I don't think you understood, like, you know, what was going on in my mind at that point. But it's like, I saw basically a miracle, because I mean, I asked for help and it showed itself again.
Yeah.
And like, we had a pretty hairy firefight in Kunduz in it was like 2016 in Afghanistan, and it's like 5 days of fighting, and I never seen anything like that before. It's like, you know, like all the Hollywood stuff that you see in movies, and it's like, you know, you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And
I remember you telling me about that one in depth.
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole podcast in itself, because that was wild. That was the prison one, right? The Kunduz prison.
The Taliban broke out of prison, like armed all the fucking prisoners.
Yeah.
And it's like, next thing you know, like, I was there as a contractor. So
Right.
I wasn't even there expecting the fight. I was just by chance. I just happened to be at this location, this SF team. Like, they had nothing. Like, they were the only team that I was working, that I hadn't seen that entire deployment. So like, you know, I was like, hey, I haven't seen you guys. You want me to come down and like, you know, check out your gear, see if you guys need any help with anything?
Because you were doing fabrication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like anything and everything. And that's kind of what I do now on the civilian side.
Right.
So I show up, they pushed me off initially. They're like, yeah, no, we don't need anything. I was like, well, I'm coming down anyhow. So just prepare whatever, let your guys know. I'll just talk with them, like the team sergeant and the team lead. Like they didn't want anything to do with me. They're like, nah, we got it. Like, we're fucking set. It's like, I get it, but maybe your guys will find out something that they might want to have. And I show up and they had like a chain link fence surrounding their compound. Everybody else in the country has HESCO and T-wall, like actual, defensible, like stuff there. They
Some
had
sort
nothing.
of fortification.
Yeah, they had nothing.
Yeah, they're like a construction site.
Yeah, I mean, like they had a road right up against their compound, and you could see into their talk.
Oh,
so
boy.
like I'm looking in their windows. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is this? And they're like, we don't want the Afghans to think we don't trust them. I was like, they know we don't trust them. They're actively trying to kill us. Like we go to a range and they turn on us. Like what the fuck? So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to your junior guys. So I started work with them, and they're like, I was like, hey, do you guys have any vehicles? And they're like, yeah, we got some side by sides. We got a Humvee here. And so like I'm sitting there looking at it, like, okay, driver, gunner, like what do you guys need? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, I can make anything. Like I can put some weapon systems on here. I can do your setup for ammo cans, like all this stuff. You guys want grenades? I can put a grenade, a container in the turret, all this stuff. So I'm getting measurements and everything sized up for these guys. And meanwhile, I hear this sporadic fire going off, and I heard an explosion early on. And I was like, okay, well, that was weird. I'd never been there before, so I didn't have any atmospherics. Yeah. So I hear this gunfire going on, and it's sporadic, and you can't tell it sounds like it's coming from different directions, and then somebody comes up to me and they're like, hey, do you have your gear? Do you have any body armor or weapon or anything here? And I was like, yeah, I got my my kit, and I got my rifle. And it's like, all right, cool, grab your shit, we got to go take it back to the city. I'm like, do what? It's like, I wasn't there as a
combatant.
So I was there if something did happen, we could go fight, but it's mostly just to get out of the situation, or if a base is attacked or something like that. So I was like, well, hey, here's the deal. I only have 4 mags on me total. It's like I have what's in my rifle and 3 on my chest, and that's it. And he's like, okay, well, what do you need? We got a whole armory. And I was like, I could use a lot. So I'm like, okay, well, what's your background? And I was like, well, I'm a SEAL. And he's like, all right, cool. What do you want then? So it changed my shit out, and we go out there and 5 days of firefight, right? Yeah. So the first day and a half, it's just us, small SF team, me and one other contractor, and then a handful of infantry there, and then whatever A&A they had. So it's not too great, because they had an entire prison of Taliban just broken out. So they were sweeping through the city, and if they would have got to us, they would have got to our compound, they would have just wiped us out, because we're surrounded by a chain link fence, basically caged dogs just waiting for the slaughter. And so at the end of the second day, we ended up getting 3 more SF teams. 10th Mountain showed up too, and then we had all the air assets in the country redirected to us.
Nice.
And it basically saved our ass, because the first couple of days, it was so close, we were hand grenade range, body parts are coming back, and so we ended up getting in trouble because one of the nights, somebody approved a drop on a hospital, and they knew that there was doctors, nurses in there, and they dropped the hospital, and ended up causing a big incident. I think the team lead ended up getting fired. I think the JTAC got fired too, and then somebody one of the the pilots on the aircraft, the navigator, got fired, and later on, whenever I was in Africa, years later, I ended up running into the same pilot that got fired, the navigator.
Oh, no kidding.
And I talked with her, and I shared my story from the ground side. She shared hers from the air side, and it was wild, because small world, opposite sides of the opposite sides of the world, and we ended up converging again.
Yeah.
And like actually getting it face to face. Like, she went through like a bout of depression for a while. She was talking about how like it basically ruined her career.
Yeah.
Like she went from like, being in a, a AC-130 to now she's like flying people back and forth, like just
Air crew, basically. Just chilling.
Just changed everything for her. So I was telling her, I was like, you do realize like if we didn't have you, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now.
Yeah,
it's
man.
like I wouldn't be alive because like we were pretty close to, the conflict. Like I never thought I could fall asleep while I'm getting shot at, but you can only stay awake for so long. And then all of a sudden air comes in and starts changing the game. It's like, we were able to survive because of you. It's like, in all reality, if I was in that hospital with the Taliban holding me hostage, I'd probably want you to drop the hospital, like just end it for me if I wasn't already dead,
Right.
So it's like, I'm pretty sure every single person in there would rather that happen than their families to see them getting tortured, mutilated later.
Yeah.
So
Throat slit on Al Jazeera is not the way to go.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like having her hear that story and then like, hearing from my perspective on the ground, it's like, I think that helped her out quite a bit because like,
Good.
she left, like, she gave me a big hug and everything. It's like, man, that changed a lot of years.
We just gave her something to hang her hat on,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All that years of self-doubt, people telling you you're a bad person. I'm sure that, that had to have been pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's super cool.
Yeah. So
there's God at it again, dude.
Yeah. And then fast forward even more. So was it like, I think it was 2021. So I'm sitting in there. I'm maybe 22, but I just put on chief. I just got back from my last deployment, and I was in this CPO LDC course, and this like leadership course that we're all supposed to go to now.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in there, and like this chief that's sitting next to me, like he's staying at a different hotel. So we're all like showing up the next day, and we're talking about like whatever we're supposed to talk about in the course, and then he was like, "Hey, I met this SEAL, like in the elevator, like he gave me his card. Do you know him?" And he takes a picture of it, and it Nicholas Rocha. And I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" It's like, yeah. So that's the guy that taught me how to swim. He's the reason that I'm a SEAL now. It's like he was the chief that taught me everything, and he's the guy that actually talked to my family, and like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, no shit. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad I could like run into him." Just complete coincidence. Like he was in the elevator. He just like the chief that was sitting next to me just happened to be wearing his uniform still. So like he was riding the elevator with him, and he was there. Like the other guy was there for like this conference. So he was like, gave him his card, started talking with him, and he was like, "Yeah, there's a SEAL sitting right next to me." So yeah, we ended up linking up. Nice. And we went out to dinner like the next night, and so he brought his buddy, and we started talking. I told him, my life story from the time that we met up until then, and he was like, "Holy shit! Like, what are you doing now?" And I was like, "Well, now I'm trying to start my own business where, like, I make tactical gear, like, because I'd always been issued stuff and nothing ever quite fit me right. Yeah. So like I would like, adjust it, like, tear it apart, figure out the things that worked and change the things that didn't work. Mm-hmm. And if I had any like, repairs I needed to make, I would just make them myself. And so that's where I got started. And then fast forward, that's where I got started with the contracting thing too. So I would go overseas, like, like work for this company where we would get dropped off, and you'd have a spec ops guy, and then you would have a DoD civilian engineer. So between the two of us, I could talk to the operators and translate to the engineer. And then between the two of us, we'd come up with a product that they need right then and there. So right. You skip all the R&D and go straight to, here's what you need. Yeah. It's done.
Custom made 240 mounts, custom made 50s, yeah. Mark 48, anything they need mounted up, you guys. And remember you telling me that was like a specialty.
Yeah.
Is vehicle mounts.
Yeah. So like, that in any given day, I might be welding, sewing, machining, 3D printing. And anything and everything. So it was awesome because every single day it was something different. So it broke up the monotony of being on deployment.
Right.
And one of the things that I would like to do also is like I would do classes. So I would bring in some of the operators, and that's how I got started with that company, was because like I was going through like some, shitty times. Like, I just got married. I had a kid for the first time, and trying to deal with like being a team guy, like not really doing the party scene so much, anymore, because now I had a family that I had to focus on. So I was worried about them. First time away, brand new baby. And so I would go over to the shop all the time and just work on my own stuff, and then help them whenever they needed help with it. So I ended up setting up a tattoo parlor. I ended up setting up like all this other stuff. And like I would just live at the shop whenever I wasn't working. So they ended up hiring me on because they're like, hey, we heard you're getting out. You're not re-enlisting. So if you want, here's a job opportunity. I ended up jumping on it and didn't regret it at all.
Yeah.
So ended up going right back to Afghanistan after I came back home under this contract, and I stayed there for the next like 4.5 years.
Yeah.
So, I got to see like all these guys and like, how they deal with the stress. And like for me, being in that position before, I was like, come over to the shop. Like, you want to burn some metal and make something awesome, and you want to make some holsters. It's like, I'll teach you how to do all this stuff. And, take your mind off of everything else that's going on out there. Take your mind off of, like, your family's back home. So like, decompress a little bit. It's like almost like a therapy.
Yeah.
And then, you start off with nothing. At the end of the day, you have a tangible object that you made, So I would do that over and over again, and I could just see guys like change. So like, I think it really helped. So whenever I was in Africa, my last deployment, I had a couple instances where my last deployment in Afghanistan, I got medevaced. And then this contract, it's like, it's the first time realizing, like, contractors don't mean anything to anybody.
Yeah.
And I get it. Because, like, whenever I was, active duty, I would see contractors that did nothing, just collected a paycheck. And it always irritated the shit out of me. And I was like, if I'm ever in that position, I will not be like that.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't. Like, I would leave meals at my table to, like, go do projects that need to get done right now. And I would stay up, all day, all night, just to get a, time-sensitive thing on, so these guys could go out and survive.
Yeah.
And
you had probably a different perspective. Those people that are being lazy.
Yeah.
I don't want to assume too much, but there's probably not the life or death urgency behind it in their personal lives.
Yeah. I mean, I even had to kick down a door for like one of our Mantech guys one time because he did not want to answer doors. Like, come back during working hours. I'm like, motherfucker, we're leaving.
It is working hours for somebody, dude.
Yeah. I was like, we're leaving in 20 minutes to go on an op. You need to fucking help our vehicle out right now. Like, get out here. And he's like, nope. I was like, all right. So I like kicked this door in. Like, he was like, what the fuck? I was like, get out here now, or I'm going to drag you out here. So he ended up coming out, and I was like, motherfucker, I will never be like that.
Yeah.
So again, like, I embodied that because like anytime somebody needed something, I was more than willing to bend over backwards to make sure that they can get out, because they're going to be leaving. And if they don't come back and I could have changed that, that's on me.
You don't want that on your soul, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I made sure that anybody that ever needed any help got it. And a little bit later, I got medevaced. I had a clonic grand mal seizure. Like, I was getting ready to come back home, and like 3 days before, I had this seizure. It was like put me off my ass. I ended up getting put in the ICU for a couple days, and then they flew me to Dubai and just dropped me off there. I was there for 7 days by myself, and I was like, okay, is anybody gonna?
Like, no medical supervision or not? Like,
no, I didn't even have a passport. I had nothing. I didn't even have my clothes, nothing.
Oh,
I was like, what the fuck? Like, no Americans were like with me or anything. They, like,
it's that contractor love, dude.
Oh, well, I mean, the only like silver lining was the flight from Afghanistan to Dubai was the best flight I've ever had, because I had a private jet. I was on a gurney. They put me on this like, hospital bed, like, on the flight. So I'm like laying down like this. It's pretty good. It's business class, to the extreme.
Yeah.
So I got drugs in me and everything. But so they put me on this flight. I get to Dubai. I get dropped off. They put me in this room by myself, and then they just block the door. Damn. And I'm just there. I'm like, okay. So the first 2 days was like, all right, caught up on some sleep. All right. Like, people would come in, give me meds, give me food, and then leave again. And then I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck am I going to do? I didn't even have a phone. So I'm like, I can't speak to anybody. I can't like look at anything. I can't tell anybody I'm okay. Nothing. So the only people I could talk to were the Filipinos that came in, like they're like cleaning the rooms, like giving me food. Like, because I was in the Philippines for about 9.5 months, so I picked up a little bit of language.
Yeah.
And most of them could speak English pretty well too. So like those are the only people I could talk to. So I was like, hey, can you ask the doctor what's going on, or if they like can get me in contact with any Americans or anything? Like, okay, we'll go talk. And then just nothing would ever come of it. So in between, I was like, well, I guess I'll just work out and chill here until somebody tells me I'm released. So like they would, check me out and they leave and I just start, exercising. And I had an IV connected to my hand and I could like see like the blood going back up into the IV bag.
Too much pressure.
Yeah. And they would come in again and I'd be on the bed and they're like, oh no. So pressure, push it back in again. They leave and I'd start doing it again. They're just something to entertain myself.
Yeah.
And then finally, on the 7th day, I was like, hey, I'm leaving and I'm going to get out of here. They're like, you can't leave. And I was like, am I being detained? And they're like, well, no. I was like, so you're detaining me against my will then. So that's like, you're kidnapping me, like unlawfully detaining or whatever, fuck. And they're like, well, no, you just can't go. I was like, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to leave. I'm just going to get out of here. And they're like, you can't. And I was like, all right, well, I was being nice, but now I'm pissed off. I'm going to leave. And if you guys try to stop me, I'm going to hurt anybody that gets in my way on the way out the door. So I was like, you're going to take me to the nurse's station. You're going to take me to the phone and we're going to call the U.S. Embassy. And they're like, I'm going to go get the doctor. It's like, good. I'm going to go with you. Like I grabbed them and I like pushed them out the door. I'm like, where's the station? Like walked me to it. And everyone's like, hey, you need to let go. I was like, you need to stay back. Call the U.S. Embassy right fucking now. And I was not having it anymore.
Yeah, dude. That's a full week.
Oh, yeah. So like finally get a hold of somebody and they get a hold of my contract and they're like, hey, what's going on? I was like, you fucking tell me. It's like, I got dropped off here with nothing. Like nobody's told me anything. Like, what's the plan to get me home? It's like, I'm past the point where I should be back at my house.
Yeah.
And like, I got nothing. And they're like, okay, well, we'll get somebody. I was like, it needs to happen right now. It's like, so they ended up getting me some money. They ended up getting me like some way of getting back to the U.S. Like I got a plane ticket. But the first thing I had to do was get some clothes because I still was wearing hospital gowns. So they gave me a hospital gown for the front and the back. And I got in a taxi, went to the mall to buy. It's like one of the richest places in the world, right? Wearing hospital gowns. And I went to the store, got some clothes just to get on a flight. I got on the flight and flew back home. I was like, all right, cool. So I'm in the U.S. now. And going through customs was interesting because I'd been gone for something happened. And I don't know if I left the country and then came back and then left again. And it didn't record me somewhere in the way. But they ended up showing me that I had a black X across my face during the global entry.
Oh shit.
So for the next 2 years, I had a random TSA check. They're like, here's a random inspection. I'm like, okay, well, this is getting old. Whatever list I'm on, fucking
it's
get
not
me
random.
off of it. Yeah. It's so I was like, I'm a U.S. military service member. I'm still in the reserves. I have all this stuff. I'm vetted. I have a security clearance. I shouldn't be on this list anymore. So whatever you can do to get it off, get it off. Eventually it happens. It took 2 years to do it though.
Dang.
Yeah. So every single time I go to the airport, I get checked.
Man.
But yeah. So.
How long were you actually active duty?
Oh, so I was active duty for 6 years.
And then,
yeah, so I just did so for a spec ops contract, you had to extend 2 years on top of the 4.
Yeah.
So I did 6 years active, switched over to reserve side, started contracting right away, and then I've been in the reserves ever since. So since 2013 to now, and yeah, so. I deployed more as a reservist than I have with active duty.
Yeah,
so,
I thought that was pretty gnarly, and when you, especially with Kunduz, I mean, I remember that being just a holy shit moment.
Oh yeah,
because your deployments as an actual team guy
Yeah.
like Kunduz was far above and beyond.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because my first one was to the Philippines and like, the MLIF and like Abu Sayyaf and like all that. Like they were out there, but they weren't really like, like a real active threat to us. There's like a couple places that like you can tell that there was danger, but they didn't want to fuck with us.
Yeah.
So they more or less left us alone. And then like they were more of a threat to like the local, like, military there.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, like, okay, then Afghanistan as a team guy, like, we were doing the commando mission in Kandahar. So like we would go back and forth, like these different locations, but we really didn't have any atmospherics. Like we'd do like, DAs for like some of these, people that would pop up. It's like, hey, there's a guy here, go get him.
Right.
Go in, pull him out. Other times we'd just be doing like presence patrol type stuff. Like, whereas like some of the other guys that were in the area, like they would be doing like, village stability stuff. So they would be living in the village or at least in the area, and they would know everybody that came in and out. And if something was different, they would know about it.
Right. Those VSO operations got super dangerous depending on where you're at in the world.
Exactly. Like we had one platoon, like, they knew as soon as they crossed one specific street, they were getting in a gunfight no matter what. So it's like, get across there, like hasty danger crossing, and like all that. So it's like, game on. Like they're basically get attacked like pretty often too. So us, being a little bit more technologically advanced, like you could see the stuff happening beforehand. And then with us, like doing the commando mission, like anytime we'd fly the Chinooks anywhere, like they would hear us and be like, all right, hide.
Yeah.
Or, they, be set up for a fight. And like, if we ever heard like, the Chechens were around, it's like, oh, fuck. Because, it's game on now.
Yeah.
But then, like still like even that though, like it wasn't nearly as bad as that one particular, like, firefight that lasted for that long. I mean,
5 days is 5 hours is a long time in a firefight.
Yeah.
5 days is incredible. That's
and not expecting to be there either, like, ill prepared, and knowing what that team on the ground had, I was right away, I was like, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
It's like, these guys are set up for failure, and it's not anything, the junior guys did. It was like, failure leadership. And like hearing all this stuff, like how they were trying to like push me off from helping them, like, build some like, defensibility and make them a little bit more survivable, a little bit more lethal. It's like, I think I would have stopped a lot of the stuff, because anybody could drive by that base and see like these guys are easy target.
Yeah.
Man, being able to break out, like, I mean, you got literally at the end of it, we killed like over 600 people, like 620 some people. And like most of it was obviously aircraft, but like there was piles of bodies everywhere, and I'd never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
So for me, as a contractor seeing that, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. And thankfully that was my last deployment. I mean, I made it out. There was some pretty amazing things I saw there too. It was like there was like we were getting hit, like, held down by like 2 sniper positions. And it's like, nobody could pop their head up, because like we were trying to like pop up in different spots, like, shoot at them, but we couldn't reach them. So we had 2 guys who were like, hey, this is bullshit. Like, we're going to go out there on a side-by-side.
Yeah.
And I mean, they didn't have any other vehicles. They had light skinned Humvees with no weapon systems mounted. They had these side-by-sides and like a 4-wheeler. Right. And that was it. They didn't have any RGs, MATVs, nothing. So these 2 guys, like, driver, he's got his M4.
These are active Army SF dudes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the driver has his M4, and then the passenger has the 240, and they scream out. They, ended up shooting like, the first position, and ended up killing that guy. And as they were like, targeting the second position, a third one opens up that they didn't know about, that we didn't see, because like where we were positioned, we couldn't see it. So they just start like, doing donuts, like, shooting full auto, like the driver's shooting too. And like, they were just trying to get out of there. Like bullet holes all over this vehicle. And they drive back in, they park. And like, this one of the driver takes off his helmet, and he like pulls out a cigarette. He's shaking. Yeah. And he's got this burn mark from the round that just barely missed his head. Like it burned straight through his hair. It's like, fuck. It was like some straight out of Hollywood bullshit.
Yeah, dude.
And Yeah, it was wild. It was
Yeah.
like, couldn't make that up. And like, we were looking at GoPro footage, like everybody's stuff, like later on. We see this one Army guy, like he's an infantry. Like he was so nervous. He was like trying to load these rounds in his magazine. And he's like, what the fuck is going on with this? Like, I don't know. And one of the SF dudes was like, you turn the round in this way. It was like you're just putting it in backwards. You're
Yeah.
just so fucking amped up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, your brain does some wild stuff when you have that much adrenaline dump in.
Yeah, because I mean, for me, it's like there was days where like I'd be awake and I'm like seeing things that aren't there. Like even after that, because that fucked me up for a while, and I think that had something to do with the seizure. Because it's like there was days where like I would hear stuff, and I'm at a completely different base at this point, and like I could hear things outside of where I was staying. And I'd go like peek my head out. Sometimes I'd see people moving around. Sometimes I wouldn't. But this one particular time, I saw somebody like like peeked their head around, and then they ran across, and they were like an Afghan, like wearing the traditional garb, and I like ran out, and I like chased them for a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, this is perfect for an ambush. Like I don't know who this is, like what their intentions are, but I'm running around in the dark with nothing, and nobody else knows that I'm out here. I don't want somebody to find me in the morning, like ran into an ambush.
Yeah.
So I went back to my hooch, grabbed my nods, grabbed my body armor, and like went and hung out in the shadows just all night until the sun came up, and then went back to work. So I would do this thing where like I would work for 50 hours straight, like legit, like 50 hours straight, and then like get to the point where I'm hallucinating like crazy, go back to my bed, rack out for about 4 hours, and just like jolt awake, and then get back to it again. And I was doing that for about 4 months straight.
Yeah.
And body could only
You're
take
killing
so much.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, by that point I was like smoking a lot. I was, like a crazy amount of nicotine intake, a lot of caffeine. And then just my body decided, no, that's it.
Yeah.
You're done. So I had the seizure. It was like, what I remember was the helicopter coming in, and I looked at the helicopter, and then I remember getting really tired, just sitting down. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna chill here for a second. And I was like, all right, I think I'm good. I'm gonna stand up. And then somebody just shoves me back down again. I'm like, what the fuck? And I go to stand up again. They shove me back down. Just stay down. I'm like, how about you get the fuck off me? And he was like, no, just chill. I was like, dude, I'm not joking. Stop touching me. And he's like, all right, well, what's the last thing you remember? I'm like, the fuck, dude? Like, let me stand up. And he's like, no, just humor me for a second. What's the last thing you remember? I'm like, okay, well, I remember seeing the helicopter, getting tired, and sitting down. He's like, okay, dude, look at your hands. So I looked down at my hands, just covered in blood. And I was like, oh, where'd that come from? And he was like, okay, so here's what happened. You did look at the helicopter, and then you didn't stop looking at the helicopter, and then you just went down and just started shaking real hard. And then after like 6 minutes, I stopped. Like I wasn't moving at all. They couldn't find a pulse. Like I wasn't breathing. So like they started doing CPR on me. And at some point I came back, and as soon as I woke up, the guy that was giving me CPR, like I grabbed him and I just started punching him in the face. And like I don't remember any of this at all.
Holy shit.
But like I just started like punching him in the face, and like they were trying to like get him off. And then I grabbed my M4 that was like attached to my single point.
Yeah.
So I grabbed it, and everybody's like, whoa, and just backed up, and they're like, what the fuck do we do now? And so thankfully I didn't use it on anybody. But the helicopter that was supposed to pick me up, like they were like, hey, fucking go, like wave off. So they landed, like people offloaded. But then one of the guys that I met 2 years before in a completely different location, he said my name. He just happened to recognize me. He said my name, and I it snapped me out of it. And I like looked right at him, and they're like, do you know this guy? He's like, well, I met him once. And I was like, well, we need you to see if you can disarm him. And he was like, okay, what did I just fly into?
Yeah, no shit.
So he talked me off of my stuff. Like I disconnected it, like I handed it to him. He cleared and saved it, and same thing with my pistol. And they're like, holy shit, okay. So they just like kind of hung out for a little bit until like I came back, and then 20 minutes later, now I'm where I was like, I tried to stand up again.
Oh my gosh.
So like that whole time, I don't remember anything. And yeah, so
That's wild.
it's wild. So full body reset.
Yeah.
And like I never had as good a sleep as I did like those next like, couple days.
Right.
They also drugged me up like crazy too.
You needed it though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They gave me so many drugs because apparently like whenever I was out, they asked me like what I was on. And I was like, everything. So they started asking like very direct yes or no questions. And I said yes to everything.
Oh shit.
Thankfully, they did a drug test on me before they started giving me anything. Because like they did blood, they did urine, and they like, they're like, hey, we gave you the drug test while you were, whenever you got admitted. And there's nothing in your system. I was like, okay. So they're like, but the problem is we gave you all these drugs and now we can't take you off of them because we gave you such high doses of everything. And I was like, why did you do that? They're like, well, whenever you whenever you had your seizure, you told us that, you had this and this and this. And I was like, I don't remember that. And yeah, thank God I had the drug test though, because that saved me so much. Because I just thought like, my military career is done. Yeah. Like everything that I've been working for is now just ruined.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that saved me. But all right, so ended up going to Africa. So I came back from that deployment. Ended up going back to the States. They were like, we can't touch you for the next year. So like heal up, and then if you haven't had an episode within that year, then we'll be able to use you again. So like, all right, cool. So maybe a month later, maybe less, I ended up meeting up with a Delta platoon. So I ended up deploying and going out there, and I met you like the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up doing the deployment with them, working with the Korean SEALs, and finished up my time there, and then came back, and I was home for like 2 weeks, and I went to Africa.
Yeah, I remember all because obviously I remember our deployment vividly, but right afterwards we were still chit chatting like, hey, how you doing? How's home? And you're like, I'm in Africa.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was kind of a sporty, trip for you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember you went and retrieved the vehicles of the gentlemen, the guys who got ambushed in
October 4th.
Yeah, massacred.
Yeah. And
you sent me the pictures of that, and that was like, dang. Mm-hmm. Right. And then there was a couple suicide bombers that were around. Like that was even. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just one of those trips that every single time I go out on a deployment, it seems like I haven't had enough. As I mean, even with that contract and the other ones beforehand, like I wasn't supposed to be a combatant, but like I always found a way to like say, hey, I can't give you this until I test it. And they're like, well, we need it now. I'm like, here's a loophole.
Coming with you.
I can go with you and test it. And they're like, okay. I was like, just you can put me on the caught up or not, but either way, it's like, I want to go play,
Yeah.
So they will usually let me on. So the downside though is that if something happened to me, I was not covered in any way.
Yeah.
So like, just with them, like, it was either coming out with them or not at all, know, like I did not have any support, as a contractor.
Right.
So, so with this, like I would try every single way I could to like get in and do whatever I could just to stay relevant. And I felt like my time in Afghanistan, like my time as a team guy, like, I just didn't do enough because things would happen all the time where I was like, fuck, like my job's not done yet. And I need to keep proving my validation, like, my existence. And so I kept going back just for that. It was like, knowing what I know now is like, I was dealing with like, survivor's guilt. Like some of my friends were killed over there. And my last deployment on active duty, we had a Christian Pike die. He was attached to us. He was a CT. And he was rock star dude. He looked like Vin Diesel, and like he was not a team guy, but he carried himself like a team guy, and he like had the respect of all of us. And like he was always there, like pushing us to do better and to be better. And he's like, "Hey, did you work out today? Why not?
Yeah,
let's go." It's like, "Didn't you work out?" He's like, "Yeah, twice today." It's like, fuck. Okay. Yeah. So. Like,
and he was KIA.
Yeah, he was shot Yeah. I don't want to say it on here, but
Yeah.
he was shot while we were out, and like he left behind a fiance and yeah, his mom. So yeah, it was pretty rough on us.
Yeah, man. The
Yeah.
emotional tolls. There's so much to be said about that and like how it manifests. I have friends who've gone through
Yeah.
30-year careers where they've done astronomical things. I mean, same stories you're talking about, just like where you're like, how is that? How do humans get through that? And they're totally fine.
Yeah.
And then one day they are not,
Yeah.
out of nowhere. One of my good buddies developed symptoms slowly over time, just started acting out. And then even after seeking help, he ended up killing himself while in rehab,
Yeah.
just coping, and there's just, I don't know. If the listeners are out there and they want to look into, like, there's research going out and there's so many great places to turn to, but dude, it's such a multifaceted thing on how it hits each individual.
Yeah.
And like, I know it hit you, and especially as you get older now and things like the perspective
Yeah.
changes. Cause I was going to ask you a question, but I didn't know, like just kind of how things have evolved for you over time.
Yeah.
And I think kind of leading into that, if you're okay talking about it,
Yeah, absolutely.
because
Yeah.
I've seen the changes in you. Like, we used to drink together all the time and
Yeah.
just be freaking knuckleheads, just because the same mentality is like the job's not done.
Yeah.
You always got something you got to do. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to try to get in here. Raise your hand for everything, because everything's, if I don't volunteer, here am I, send me.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's not that mentality has gone away. Like, I know both of us would still volunteer to go do, whatever
Yeah.
needs to be done, but it starts to change perspective. Like, things become different. It's more real.
Oh,
It's, when you see the second, like you were talking about, like the fiance and the family that's left behind, like, it's a huge change.
It is. Yeah. So for me, I didn't know at the time, but I was becoming reckless. I mean, I would go out and do things that were dangerous. Like, I knew that these were things that you shouldn't be doing. I was going out and, like, you weren't supposed to have alcohol in some places, and I would go find it and talk to people that I shouldn't be talking to get it. And it's just a lot of the things in the background that I was doing and I was hiding from everybody. And even in Africa, it's like I was having a great time. I was in a place that more or less liked Americans, more than somebody else. Like, they hated the French there, but they loved Americans. So I would go out, have a great time. And then my contract was supposed to be up pretty soon. Like, originally that one was supposed to be a 4-month deployment. And I'd never had anything under 6 my entire career, whether it was military or civilian side. And so this one ended up becoming a 6-month deployment. And then at the 6-month mark, I get a notification on my phone or email or whatever saying, hey, you can check into your flight now. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't have a replacement yet. So I go call up my company. I was like, hey, just letting you know, my flight ping saying that I can check in now and there's nobody here to replace me. So what do you want me to do? And they're like, you can't leave. And I was like, yeah, no shit. That's why I'm calling you.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, hang tight. We're going to find it. We're going to figure out something for you. And then we'll let you know. I was like, all right, cool. But 24 hours, that's when I'm supposed to, get on the plane. They're like, yeah, you're not going to take that flight. I was like, all right, cool. Got it. So called back home, let my wife know. And, I told her, I was like, hey, they kind of dropped the ball on this. They don't know what's going to happen. So I just got to be here for a little bit longer. I don't know how long. And then, like a week or two later, they're like, hey, we got a plan for you. I don't know how feasible it's going to be, but it's what we got. So they're like, we don't have anybody to replace you. So we have to hire somebody new, train them up a little bit, send them out to you, and then you got to train them up the rest of the way. And then whenever you're comfortable, then you can, tell us, and then we'll get you home. And I was like, what? So what happened? Did you just forget I was here or what? It's like, it's one of two things. Like, either I wasn't causing any problems, so they just completely forgot about me, or I was doing such a great job. They just wanted to,
No news is good news. And next thing you know.
Yeah. But I mean, at that point I was pissed because this was the second time something like that had happened where they just left me somewhere, So, I was furious. I was like, well, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do whatever I need to do, but I'm going to do it my way. So I ended up figuring out how to get into other countries in the area. So, I mean, I smuggled myself into other countries in West Africa. And like, there's one time I was in Mali and I, got stopped at a checkpoint and they like, searched us down and they're like, "Hey, you got a firearm?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Where's your permit?" And like, they're saying this like broken English. And I'm like, permit. Yes. So I pull up my military ID and I'm like, "Here you go." And they're like, looking at it. Obviously don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And they like, flip it around. They're like, "Oh, see, yes. Okay, pass." I'm like, "Oh, thank God for literacy."
Yeah. Just.
I'd be fucking murdered in a Mali prison.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but
Too many risks.
yeah. So like, I ended up staying there a full year. And I get back home and I was like, "Oh, fuck." Like COVID hit. And like,
Yep.
like that was my first time that I was actually stuck. Like I couldn't go anywhere. Military couldn't use me. Like, contracting world couldn't use me. I was just stuck. I just was at my house for the first time, for the longest time in years. So I was around my wife and my 2 kids, and I was just in a very bad place because I was not the father that I needed to be. I was never around.
Yeah.
And I was not a good husband either because, ever since my daughter was born, I would just leave and I'd come back for a short time and then leave again. It's like, I justified it by like, I'm making money, I'm supporting the family and, I was really doing it. So yeah, I could support my family, but I was also trying to fill that piece that was missing in me, like, I was an operator and I still need to be operating. I still need to go out and, try to save the world.
Yeah.
And that's not my job. Yeah. Like, my job should have been staying home and take care of my family. And unfortunately, I figured that out too late.
Well,
and,
I would say too late's a rough assessment on you because your kids absolutely love you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a fantastic father. It was just, I'll let you take like a shot on the chin to be like, you figured it out late, but too late, definitely not, bro.
Yeah. Well, too late for my ex-wife,
Yeah.
But,
that is, that's sad.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, I mean, she's a great mother. I have nothing bad to say about her. So, I mean, we had our differences.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody that, we know, like, our close friends. And even we had a guy staying with us during COVID. And thankfully, like, he was able to redirect me a little bit. And I'll get into that a little bit more. But, yeah, so, like, she's always been, like, a better friend than we were better compatible as friends than we were as married.
Right.
So, yeah, it was hard. I mean, fresh out of that divorce about a little over a year now. So, like, we were separated for a little bit before then. Finally got divorced, and then, it is what it is. But I found somebody that is compatible with me now, and all those things that I messed up during my first marriage, I learned from, and now I'm trying to take on and make sure I don't make the same mistakes with this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You
not too late.
Yeah, for sure. That 2 word, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you and me are knuckleheads, man. We're always late.
Yeah.
We figure things out on our own schedule.
Yeah.
Which means we're a couple years behind the power curve. That's just what we do.
Yeah.
But dude, no. And then are you okay talking about part of your, like, what you use to help your brain? Mm-hmm. You get what I'm alluding at here?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you turned to shrooms, to psychedelics.
Yeah.
And the amount of people I know who were or are dealing with things that you have had experience with, who have turned to microdosing or even doing like ceremonial where you like macro dose and really like punch your brain.
Yeah.
What was your experiences with that?
Yeah. So my buddy, he ended up introducing it to me first. He was like, "Hey, I've been reading these books and like, not using this for like, like a party drug or anything."
Right.
He's like, "I'm using this for healing." Cause he was dealing with some stuff too. He was Army and, like, he'd seen some stuff in Afghanistan himself. And, like he was a part of some pretty major like operations. He was doing some, VSO type stuff too. And, he ended up coming back and he was dealing with a lot of issues. So like he introduced it to me and he was like, "Hey, I think I'm going to start doing this. I think I'm going to start using this as a method of like healing." And like, dating back to like, ancient times, like, it's been around forever.
Oh, yeah.
And, so he's like, I just want to make sure it's safe beforehand. So went through all the books, like talked to a lot of different people, talked to shamans, and like he ended up like doing this with me. He was like, hey, I want to try it out just to make sure I'm not going to have some like, psychotic episode, like whenever I go do it, like for real. And so we ended up like doing a session where he was going to do like a heroic dose and I was going to do a microdose. And we did. So like we prepared everything, like we cleansed our system, like, 24-hour fast beforehand. And we even like, kept a journal of everything.
Yeah.
So that way it's like, scientific and not just fuck it, we'll see what happens.
Right.
Like, get your set and setting right. And just be in the right place to like listen to like whatever's going to come, like just whatever happens. Right.
To be able to receive and accept the message.
Yeah. Yeah. So like he took the macro or the heroic dose, and then I took the micro, and like, we start like, timing it, and it's like, all right, cool. So you feeling anything? Not yet. No. Starting to feel something. I don't know what it is yet, but I think something's happening. And then a little bit later, so write down, starting to feel something,
Yeah.
And then like kind of describe it as much as possible. So like throughout that, I was like, okay, now I'm really seeing some things now. And then got to the point where like we couldn't write down anymore. It's like, okay, we're just we're here for the trip now. So what I start seeing was like like these. It's like I'm in a galaxy, right? And like the stars are all around me, and it's just like slowly rotating. And like that's the first thing that I saw. And like as we're having this conversation, and like we're just whatever comes to mind, we're just speaking on it. He's talking mostly. And I'm listening, just like if he starts to freak out, like my job was to kind of like, reassure him, like let him know I'm here. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening was like throughout the night, the conversation just started getting more intense. And like we were talking about different things. I mean, we felt like we were talking about the same thing, but his perspective was different than mine.
Yeah.
And then like as we're talking, like those stars that were like way out there are like slowly getting closer and slowly rotating. And as I look up, I can see like this like reverse vortex. It's like we're going into like something like and there's like a climax up there.
Okay.
I just couldn't explain it, but like it's the colors get more vibrant as we we talk, and it's like we had this weird connection where like he was like, I gotta go take a piss, and I was like, all right. I'm sitting against the wall, and he gets up and he starts walking away. And like as he gets further and further away, like I feel this like uncomfortable draw. And I'm like,
oh, crazy.
I'm like, okay. I'm just like looking at him like, okay. And he's like, hey, this might be weird, but can you come with me? And I was like, yeah, okay. So like, I jump up and I'm like, all right. So like he's taking a piss and like he's like, I don't know what that is, but I just felt like I needed you to come with me. I was like, I felt the same thing as soon as you got up. So I don't know, but something happened. But his heroic dose ended up pulling me into his. So like I don't know. I don't have any explanation for this, but that was like the first little bit, because like afterwards. Like we sat there and talked as we're coming down from it, and like we're talking about like what he noticed, what I noticed, and like things that made sense to me, what made sense to him. And the first thing was like this. It was like you had an entity like taking you around, and I would almost say it was like an angel. It's like you had like an angel guiding you to like this lesson, like like hey, this is what you wanted to work on, but you need to see this instead.
Yeah.
Like this is what you need to work on first. And the first thing it told me was you need to fix your relationship with your kids. Ooh. And I was like, all right. So it like, started talking about these things that I need to do with the kids, and like, don't be as quick to anger. Yeah. They fuck up everything. I mean, you saw like, tornado run around, like the kids are pretty good about it now, like respecting
super
spaces.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always like that. It's like, like I would, during COVID, I was just so irritated. Like they would be running around the house, like banging on things, like stomping around. It's like the kids grow like 10,000 pounds, like in the morning, just stomping everywhere, just breaking everything. And just all those things that kids do that are super annoying, that I would just crush them for everything.
Yeah.
And like, like the guide was like, hey, you need to tone it back. It's like they're kids. Like you need to, show them what it's like to be loved and cared for. And like, they just want to be around you. And I was like, okay. So in the morning, whenever they woke up, it's like, I didn't realize it, but like they would peek their head around the corner. It's like, what's Dad's moods like today?
Yeah.
And it's like whenever they came around the corner, I like immediately like changed my tune. I was like, hey, they hugged them and held on to them for a while.
You changed the temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Cause it's like every single day, no matter what, like, like I would set the mood of the house for the day.
Right.
And, whether it was with my ex or, the kids, like, it's like, whatever mood I'm in, that's kind of what the tempo was for the rest of the day.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize that in general, that is part of the man's, you don't want to call it the man's job of the house, but if you talk about roles, let's just call it role. Like
right.
When people talk traditional roles, like the man sets the temperature in the house.
Yeah.
You do have some strong women that can influence it. Absolutely. And I'm not downplaying that, but a man, a father, like that is on you.
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
Yeah. And that was lacking. And, I didn't realize it until that moment. And so that lasted for about a month. Because, we didn't do it every single day. We did it like, okay, so we're putting restrictions on this, so it's not something that you're going to abuse.
Kids,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like we would like, set it up. It's like, okay, this is when we're going to do it. So right before then, you're going to start doing all these things. You're going to start cleansing. You're going to start like, cutting out alcohol, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was drinking heavily.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to do during COVID. So before this first trip that we did, I took out the trash one time and I was like, picked up the glass and I was like, I drank a gallon and a half of rum by myself in a week.
Since last trash day.
Yeah. I was like, fuck, I got a problem. So like after that, I was like, okay, well, if I just straight up cut it out, like I might have some like, other issues that, that could happen. I've heard guys like, that like drink pretty heavily, like alcoholics for years and then decide to go cold turkey, end up having like, alcohol dependency and they go in like, seizures and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, well, instead of just going straight up cold turkey, maybe I just buy like, a limited amount of alcohol. Cause once I drink, I'm not going to drive out anymore. So I like, brought like, 2 drinks. I was like, okay, that's it. That's all I'm going to drink today. So got to the point where like after like 2 of these trips, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop altogether. So I ended up buying a Soda Stream and like I realized like I wasn't drinking to get drunk. I was drinking just because it was something to do. And it was like the oral fixation for me was so like I would get the bubbly water and like just drink it and like I said last night, I would drink like a gallon and a half like of water just like over the course of like 2 hours. I'm like, oh fuck. Oh well, okay. Now I'm hydrated.
Yeah.
But it ended up working out that way because for the next 6 months, I hadn't had a single drop of alcohol. Yeah. And it was like, I don't need it. And like the mushroom therapy, like, we started like increasing the doses to like, to see like, how it worked and like to see like what else we can be taught. Because the first one was, fix your relationship with your kids.
Yeah.
And then I've always had a good relationship with my daughter because she was born, like, I delivered her. And like cut the cord. So other than, my wife, like I was the first one to hold my daughter.
Right.
And then so like we've always had that connection. My son was born while I was in Afghanistan and like, our base was getting attacked whenever she was going into labor.
That's right. Yeah. That's pretty nuts too.
Yeah.
Do just a quick synopsis cause
okay. So I got back.
This is like movie worthy as well.
Yeah. So I get back from one of my deployments. My wife gets pregnant and then it's like we didn't plan it. It just kind of happened because like, like after the first baby's born, you're like, the female is like a little bit more fertile, like, for like the first year or so afterwards. So like she got pregnant immediately and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm leaving. So I was like, okay, so here's my country phone. If you go into labor and if I'm available, like I will get to Skype, I will dial in and I'll be there through the whole thing. And so she calls me, and I was like, all right, cool. So like get to the computer, log in, and I'm on Skype, like coaching her through the breathing exercises. Like, like she's there with the midwives, and I can see everything. And pretty soon afterwards, like 10 minutes, and all of a sudden, like, so like a mortar lands like just outside the compound, and it's like boom, and everybody hears it. And they look at me on the screen, and I'm sitting there like, everything's fine. And they're like, are you sure? It's like, yeah, somebody just dropped something heavy outside. And they're like, okay. So they go back to, breathing stuff. And then, a little bit later, like not even a minute later, like another mortar lands like inside the compound, pretty close to where I was. And like, my whole can's rattling, like shit's falling off the walls everywhere. And I'm like, oh God, a little close for comfort. So everybody looks at me again. They're like, are you sure everything's okay? I'm like, yeah, somebody just hit my can with the forklift. Like, we'll be fine. I'll go talk to them later. And then the guard tower opens up, machine gun fire. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And they're like, I was like, it's just the range. It's right next door. Every time the range goes, I need to be there though. So I gotta go. Like, good luck with the baby thing. I'll call you right back. So I peeked my head. So I peeked my head out, and like everybody's running everywhere. I'm like, fuck. So I throw my shit on, grab my partner, like go outside, and like the Taliban set up some ladders, and they're trying to go over the wall. So like we finish up that ordeal, and then I come back later, and baby's born. I was like okay, hey.
Yeah.
5 months later, I finally meet Joshua for the first time.
Yeah.
And I was kind of fucked up because like she had me go pick him up, and she like so. I show up. I'm like, all right, I'll grab my son. And so I show up, and the daycare is like, all right, so who are you here to see? I'm like, oh, I'm Joshua's father. She's like, okay, yeah, you can go grab him. And I go over there, and there's 3 babies. We're right next to each other. I'm like,
oh shit, dude.
Joshua.
And looking for like an eye contact or something.
Yeah, like none of them look at me. I'm like, I got to pick one up, and the lady's like, no. I was like, Joshua. Like, yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, wow, I'm a fucking world star, father right here. Yeah, so I didn't really have that connection with him like I did with her.
Right.
And so like for years, like, just I would try, and it's just like he was definitely attached to her more than he was to me. So yeah, first lesson, get your relationship good with your kids. Yeah. Second one was like, your son, like you don't have really a relationship with him other than you're, somebody that he looks at as a father figure. So like that was, that hit me pretty hard. And so I started focusing on like him and like, fixing his relationship, like figuring out what he's interested in and, stuff like that. And then, it was just like be more of a, like, nurturing towards him. Cause I was always like, he's going to grow up to be a man. I'll treat him like a man. Well, he's a fucking toddler, you know? So you can't really do that. And, I didn't know how to raise kids. I mean, there's no manual for it. It's like, all the baby books in the world can prepare you for the birth. And then after that, it's like, choose your own adventure, don't kill them. Yeah. So, it was eye-opening for me. And then after that, like there was more things too, like it just kept progressing. And then, the one that I wanted to work on in the very beginning finally got shown to me. It was like, all right, you need to get okay with death now. Yeah. And it was like, I've already done it, but this was something that I was asking for in the very beginning. It's like, I've already dealt with, lots of, friends, family. And it's like never, like, we always say, like, if it's my time, like all that stuff, like, just standard stuff. But really, you don't understand what it's like until you get faced with it. It's like, okay, so what happens, like, after your life, So what I was shown was like, why are you scared? Like, why are you scared for it? Like, everybody goes through it. Mm-hmm. Like, whether you're ready for it or not, it's going to happen. And like, you've already done it before. And I was like, what do you mean I've already done it before? It brought me back to like times where like, I drowned. Yeah. And it's like, vividly remember those moments, like, not just from my perspective, like in the water, but from like, above, like just like watching myself, like an out of body experience in the past, and I was like, holy shit. And then like other times that I don't remember that, like I saw it like in the vivid detail. And then whenever I had my seizure, same exact thing. It's like everything that I felt and then everything that was explained to me after the fact I got to see it from a different way. And seeing that was a trip because I was like, okay, you're right. I have been through these experiences. I've had like, felt a little bit of a like taste of death too. And it's like, it really wasn't that bad. It's like in the moment, it's like your body's fighting, saying like, don't leave, like fight for survival, all that stuff. And it's painful. But then afterwards it's euphoric, you're comfortable, you're relaxed. You're like, it's not so bad. So, gave me an opportunity to like actually get okay with it. And I got to see some things too. Like, one of them that I had was, I got to see my interactions with every single person I've ever met in my life, whether it was like friends or family or just a random, like bystander on the street, and like, how I dealt with them, like how they perceived me from their eyes. And that was a great way to see like, that I'm not always the best person. And, like some of the times where I was dealing with something and I projected my anger or whatever issues I was dealing with on somebody else, like that didn't deserve it. And, like I hurt people and that didn't necessarily need to happen. But if I didn't see it from that perspective, I wouldn't have known.
For sure.
And, there was times in Afghanistan too, where it's like, I came in as a new guy and I came in to like do damage. Just like, I'm here to kill people. So that's my job. Well, the longer I was there, the more I gained a sense of humanity. I was like, I don't need to pull the trigger. It's like, these people are just trying to live. They're trying to, keep their village safe, their family safe. And I'm the invader at this point,
Yeah.
And it's like, they are just trying to survive in their little corner of the world. It's like, well, I don't need to mess this up.
Yeah.
So, I started thinking about it. Like, if somebody invaded us in the U.S., we would be doing the exact same thing.
1,000%.
So it's like, I'm just going to be here until I don't need to be here anymore. And so that last deployment to Africa, like, like that was the last like real like kinetic thing I ever did. Everything else after that, it's like my eyes were opened a little bit more, and I was like, okay, well, be a good human being. Like, don't try to get in a fight every chance you get. Like, you got nothing else to prove. Like, now you need to live for your kids, and you need to like show them what it's like to be a good, decent human. And so mushroom therapy helped a lot.
Yeah.
And my buddy ended up going like, he did a like a full like ayahuasca thing. He did the like the toad, and he did all these things, and he's like, dude, it changed everything. And like, just a little bit that I did too was like the last like large dose I did. I mean, it was years ago, but the last one that I did was enough for me to be like, you know what? I think I'm good now. It's like, I've done everything I need to do. And yeah, obviously like, every now and then, like, like I'll have these like, anger spikes and like stuff like that. But, just remember it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. You can calm down. You can take a step back, be a little bit more patient with people, and maybe be a little less quick to anger and, judgment, because, these people are dealing with shit too.
Yeah.
And maybe they just need to get it out. They just need to be heard. So for me, taking that step back, I think it helped my relationships more. And, being able to talk things out and not yell things out. One of the things that I learned with my ex-wife was like, we would always try to die on every single hill. It's like, you don't need to die on every hill. It's like, like there's a give and take. It's like, you can be wrong too and also be right, but what did you gain by crushing her, like winning that battle? It's like, what other problems did you just cause,
Right.
And like, some of the things are, pretty unforgivable that you say. Yeah. And so understanding that, like, it helped me take a step back and realize like, okay, I don't always need to be right, but I need to salvage any relationship I have, So even with the kids too, it's like I tried to make it like where it's like, hey, let me give you a safe word. So if you ever think that I'm talking to you and I'm being a little unfair, or like, you need to explain your side of the story, you could say it like pineapples or whatever, just something silly to, get it out. And I asked the kids later, I was like, do you remember your safe word? And both kids said it at the same time, and they said different words. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
If your kid's looking at you and says something random, though, you're like, whatever that was, it's the same.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's like now I try to do it in a way where it's like, okay, well, just let them speak, and like sometimes it's hard to remember, like in the moment. It's like like especially when emotions are high on both ends, because fuck, they're kids.
Yeah, man.
Like you can't expect them to communicate like an adult. It's like an adult says some of the things that they say to me, I'd be like, shut up.
Yeah,
Yeah. But no, I mean, they're good kids, and every single time that I'm around like other people and their kids, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And like, they look at my kids and they're like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Right.
It's like, I need you to hang out with my kids more. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a learning curve. Yeah. I mean, like I said before, it's like, I think once I had kids, it actually made me a better leader too, because I got to think about patience a little bit more and think about what they're trying to express before I just jump down their throats and like crush them,
Yep.
So, yeah.
I'm trying to soak it in through osmosis.
Yeah.
I got no kids to like.
You got fur babies. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to correlate that, there's definitely a learning curve, but they're also, animals are different in the sense that like, once they have a routine, if you don't break the routine, their personality, they have a personality, but their routine doesn't change.
Right.
They're not going to be like, I want to go hang out with friends, or I want to go do this, or drive your car into the ditch, or whatever. Like, they're just dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, hanging around with like my nieces and nephews and your kids, I understand the difference between parental upbringings.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
And I love hanging around with your kids, but obviously, there was like moments, like last night.
Yeah.
No, and I'm not gonna say it was your kids specifically, but there was a couple moments where I was like,
yeah,
man, I
could see it.
I was so not used. Like just some of the questions I would look at, I'm like, I don't know how to answer to you. Hey, small human, what are you thinking about?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a never ending struggle too, because like, that they know what they're trying to ask. And like, I give this to you too. It's like, so whenever they were babies, like, and like early stages of being a toddler, I would ask them questions and they would just start crying and like, it's like, I don't know what you want. It's like, here's mom.
Yeah.
You need some boob? Yeah. Me too. Yeah. But, I mean, so like with that stuff, like I was completely lost, and obviously like I had no patience for it either.
Yeah, man.
So it's like whenever they became toddlers and I can ask them a question and then they could speak something, it's like hungry or food or like thirsty or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, well, here, and it'd be okay. It's
Why haven't you been saying that for years?
Yeah. So then I can start playing with them a little bit more, like, and like I had a great time. And then like it was like the roles reversed, because whereas like I was clueless for the baby phase, like my ex, like she struggled with the toddler phase, because like she just could not understand like why they were doing things the way they were and how to interact with them. And I mean, she was there all the time with them. And I think a lot of it was just like, she's so close to it, she couldn't like step back and see the full picture. And whether that's, true or not, it's just my perspective, right?
Yeah.
She's a great mother. Like she's done everything for the kids. She's
for sure.
been their entire lives.
Yeah.
And like take nothing away from her. Just, there's definitely a difference between a mother and a father, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about with like the temperature in the room, and there's a huge push right now, and maybe I'm too close. Too close is not the word. I'm close in this circle, so I see it a lot more. It's like when you Google something and then all of a sudden the ads come through. Yeah. So I start talking about it with my friends, and then I meet more people who have the same mindset. So in my world, it's growing exponentially. Yeah. Is what does it mean to be a man? Yeah. And it's constantly being asked. And there's all these programs that are people I respect, entrepreneurs, business advocates, health advocates, personal coaches, mental coaches. All these people are really pushing it right now. And it's something that I'm super passionate about, because I'm looking back on myself and having some of the same revelations without the kids. Yeah. And I'm having like, man, I've been a pretty shitty husband. Or like, man, I am very quick to do this, that, or the other. And it's because people are finally starting to talk about it. I'll look at myself in the mirror, but only to a point. Yeah. And then when someone else is like, hey, no, you go look in the mirror, then you get that extra percentage or that extra little bit. And that's, you know, I feel like the microdosing helped you out big time with that.
Oh, yeah.
And my friends, the people I looked up to and respect, they've been helping me a lot with that as well.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference between being a man and being a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and motherhood and fatherhood and all those aspects. Like there's huge roles.
Yeah. And I went and did this this seminar whenever it's like it was post COVID. So it was like right whenever like all the mask mandates and everything like disappeared. So I went to this seminar and I thought it was going to be like a business thing. And so there's like a lot of secrecy behind it. And I can't give too much, but
Can you say the name of it? Like,
yeah, it was Impact.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard of this.
So I went to it and I showed up and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I thought it was going to be business related, and really like it was a very small amount of business, and a lot of it was like interpersonal like relationships and introspect. So I came out of that and I was like, holy shit! Like I always looked at my father as like kind of a hard ass and like stuff like that growing up, and I became okay with it because like he basically helped me like mold into the man that I am today. Like taught me how to use all the tools, like how to basically build anything, and I just that was a starting point. And now like I've just progressed on my own, and then like I forgave him for all the things that happened during my childhood, and never even considered that maybe my mother had a part in that too. And then it was like during that that seminar, like that week that I was there, that I started realizing like, holy shit, like I never really had a good relationship with my mother. And it was because she had 5 kids and my dad was always gone working. And so like she had 5 kids that she was struggling to like take care of. And like, just felt like one baby was born, and then 18 months later, the next one was born, and then the next one was born, and the next one was born. It's like all of us are 18 months apart, like almost to the day. And so just was like, okay, well, what the fuck? Like, like I never had that nurturing side because she was always taking care of somebody else.
Yeah.
And like once I realized it, like I called her and I told her like what I felt. I was like, I never really felt like I mean, I obviously have a mother, I still do. And, but I never really felt like I had a mother whenever I was growing up. And, it was like, I hung out with my dad all the time because he was always like, hey, we're going to work. Like, you're not playing your game right now. You're going to come work. You're not playing with your friends. You're going to work. And like, so I hated it whenever I was growing up. Now I'm like, well, it taught me so much. Cause like now I can do damn near anything. It's like, if I don't know how to do something, like the biggest thing I learned from my dad was it's like, I would ask him a question like, hey, he's like, do this. I'm like, how do I do that? He's like, figure it out. And then he'd just leave. I'm like, what? Okay. And then because of that, the first few times, obviously it didn't go so well, but after that, like I started learning, I started like, figuring out these puzzles on my own, and like, he'd come back, correct me. And like, so like, I just grew with that. Helped me out significantly, like my adult life, like, even as an 18-year-old kid, like joining the military, like that progressed. So like I could do anything.
Yeah.
I built 2 bars, like in my platoon spaces. Like, I was in 2 different platoons on active duty, and I built a bar in each one. And the first one I built completely by myself, like bar, loft, like, giant table, like, everything. And did that over a weekend, and everybody came back on Monday morning. They're like, what the fuck? Who built this? I was like, I did. They're like, who helped you? I was like, nobody. They're like, how did you get it up there? I was like, I climbed up the rafters, rigged up the pulley system. They're like, what? So, but like I said, like I always thought about my dad, like, like how much I hated him, but also loved him at the same time. And then, I apologized, for like, and then forgave him for everything that, he did. But I never even considered that my mom might have needed to hear something too.
Dang.
So I talked with her, laid everything out, and build a relationship with her. Like, for the first time, I mean, it's like I was in my 30s before I had these conversations, and it changed a lot. Like, just took a huge weight off my chest, and I never realized how much I needed that. And the start of that was because in mushroom therapy, and then this just was a progression of that. And yeah, like I said, just there was no downside to doing this. Like there was nothing like with alcohol, like you wake up and you're like, oh, I feel like absolute dog shit, or like any of the other like, drugs or whatever. It's like, this was actually like, it was therapeutic and then you don't have a crash afterwards. Like you just come down and you're like, I'm good to be, I'm going to listen to the lessons and become a better human.
Yeah.
And like I had no desire to do anything anymore. Like I didn't even want to drink anymore. I mean, that's how powerful it was.
Yeah.
And like to anybody that was struggling, like I recommend doing this.
Sure.
If you're at your wit's end, you think it's going to be, dark from here on out. It's like, there's still a chance. So, yeah. Just, I think there's an opportunity for anybody to get something out of it.
Yeah.
Like the only people that I've heard like have real issues are the people that are so narcissist they can't get past their own roadblocks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I definitely got something out of it.
For sure.
Yeah. And now I'm willing to be around and actually be a part of my kids' lives. And, taking them on this trip here, it's like, I could have easily have left them with their mother, but it's like, you know what? We're going to get a road trip. And let my buddy, my buddy know, is like, hey, kids got spring break. We should go up and talk to Jeff.
Yeah.
It's like, bring the kids and we'll make a road trip out of it. So,
yeah. And it was so awesome to get to meet him too.
Yeah.
And, we had a session and sat down, but he's such an optimistic guy.
Yeah.
And some of what you're saying right now, I know you guys obviously had hours in the car together.
Yeah.
So like you guys have linked up a little bit.
Yep.
Your guys' vision on like just this trip, right? Mm-hmm. Several hours in a truck, blowing a camper, parking, 3 kids with you. Mm-hmm. Anyone could be like, oh, what a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And both of you have been like, dude, this is such a blessing.
Yeah.
And it's wild. It's super cool. It's humbling for me because you guys came to see me and then you're talking about what a blessing. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, there's everything, I feel like it happens for a reason, right? Mm. So that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. Just try to make the best out of every day because like I see things all the time. It's like, if today was your last day on earth, like what would you do? And, it's easy for us to get wrapped up in work saying like, okay, I got to do all these things. I got all these projects. It never ends. Like no matter who you are, like it will never end.
Right.
Like, you always have something. You could be the richest man in the world or the poorest man in the world. And there's always something, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like, starting a company, like I've been working on that nonstop and my partner's been like crushing it too.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about him in a little bit, but so like there was days like I would work on a project just to get it done. The kids would come home from school. I'd be like in the garage, like, hey, what's up? Okay, what do you need to do? All right, cool. Well, I'm in here. I'm working. Leave me alone. And I do my thing. And then like days gone by, weeks gone by, and I'm like, I haven't really hung out with the kids at all yet.
Yeah.
It's like other than like, taking them to like, jiu-jitsu or whatever, or like, whatever activity they had going on. So stuff like this, it was good because like, Gerardo was the one that was like, hey, let's bring the kids. We'll not just like point A, point B, but let's do like, some things along the way. And I was like, that's a great idea. And it wasn't until like we were on the way that I was like, it's actually a really good idea. It's like, we both needed this. And like, we were both kind of talking to each other. Like, it was like, we do need this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. Like, cause I mean, he's a workaholic. Like he's probably the hardest worker I've ever met. Like he just nonstop go. And it's like, hey man, you need to take a step back. You need to like hire somebody to run your business while you are finding other work, like, for your business. Like you can grow exponentially if you just do that. And, I mean, I'm saying that like, I was running the same issues where it's like, hey, dumbass, you need to also take a step back and let somebody else, do some stuff too.
Yeah.
And then my partner said the same thing. So it's like all these things that I know that I just don't do.
Yeah.
But
like I said, dude, we're always a couple years late.
Yeah, exactly.
We finish with epic fashion.
Yeah.
But it's easy. I fall into the same category. I'll give advice to people and people are like, it's fantastic advice. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you want to know how I know that? Because I tell myself every day and then I don't do it.
Yeah.
And it like makes me sad, but also chuckle inside. Like, I know the same thing. I'm saying it. It's right.
Right.
Maybe I should start.
Yeah. No, I'm right there. Yeah. So my fiance is doing the same thing. Yeah. She gives the best advice to everybody else, and then she struggles whenever she needs to listen to her own.
Dude, it's hard.
Yeah.
There's some weird disconnect within our just mental capacity to like slow down. It must be something to do with like hubris, some sort of humility or arrogance or something.
Yeah.
That just puts a little block like, well, that's what everyone else should do.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. But your new company, your fabric, you're not. It's not fabrication. It's textile fabrication.
Yeah. So manufacturing.
There you go.
So whenever, so I was talking about that chief earlier, right? So met in Portland.
Yeah.
So he came in with his buddy, gave the life story, and then like he was like, so what are you doing now? I was like, well, I started a company where I'm building off-road trailers, and like I'm doing some tactical gear fabrication type stuff. And he was like, oh shit, so are you doing government contracts? Are you doing like small time stuff? Are you doing big stuff? Or like what's going on? Like you explain a little bit more. So I started talking. I was like, honestly, I really don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm building stuff for like friends and family, and then just custom one-off type stuff. And he was like, they both look at each other like, I think we were brought here for a reason. And no shit, like right then and there at that table, like, we're just a couple of friends that, hadn't seen each other in years. And then he brings his friend in, and like, we just bond right then and there. And like, we say a prayer, like, at the end of the meal. It's like, we can help each other out. Like
nice.
we're going to go places. So, Nick Rocha, like, he just, so he has his company going. It's Neptune Shield. Like he's been helping us, like, with the government contract side. Mm-hmm. And, like anytime like we need something, we're like, hey, we're having a hard time finding a supplier for XYZ. And he's like, all right, I'll get my team on it. And no shit, like, right away, it's like, they're emailing me at nighttime, like daytime, doesn't matter, like all hours. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm not even near my computer. Like, I feel like I should just be sitting here, just send a reply and just wait, because it's that quick,
Yeah.
Like they're crazy. On top of it, and like helping us get in with these government contracts is huge.
Yeah.
Because, I know nothing about it. And then my buddy Tank, like, he's my partner. So he's been doing this for years. And he's like, I will come out of retirement just for you. And it's been a blessing because, like, he's done government contracts. Mm-hmm. He's like, started businesses from nothing and sold them for, pretty big money.
Right.
And it's been part of like these pretty large like patents. And like, yeah. So to say that, we have some talent, like that's an understatement.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You got a good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and good friends.
And then, like, we had another guy that Tank brought in. He's our media guy, Cody Howell. Like he does country music. So like he's in Tennessee. He's got some albums out. It's pretty cool. So like he was a media guy. Like he worked in the Navy also. He was working with Dev Group. And so like he found this guy, and he was like, hey, this guy does a lot of stuff with canines. And like, I think you guys should meet him. Like, we talked with him on the phone. We had a meeting, and ended up like, he's like, hey, can you build a harness? And like, so I mentioned something about like this cooling system. I was like, yeah, we can bring the temperature of the dogs down. And like, I was just having an idea of like, this thing in my mind, and I hadn't really built it yet, but I like was piecing it together. And he's like, okay, well, show me what you got. And I was like, okay. He's like, well, this is the timeline that I'm thinking. So if you can get something by this day. And I was like, okay, what are the measurements of your dog? Like, what are some of the things you're looking for? He gave me some stuff. And by the way, so I was also like experimenting with body armor too. So like, like plate carriers, like, flexible plates and stuff. So mentioned some of that stuff, and that kind of snowballed to where we are today, where he gave me his measurements for the dog, and then like 3 measurements. And I was like, okay, I think I can do something with that. So I hung up. I was in San Diego at the time, flew back home, got to my dog, and my dog's a couch potato. Like he was like, you want me to get off the couch for what? Yeah. And so like I'm measuring him. He's starting to lay down. I'm like, no, stand up again. Like he's like, roll over. I'm like, motherfucker. So I couldn't get him to stay still for anything. So I ended up taking whatever measurements I could off of my dog, and then took the measurements of his dog. And I was like, okay, well, the only way I can possibly do this is if I have a dog that's going to stay still. So I made a wireframe dog, paper mache'd it, and I was like, looks good.
Yeah.
And then I ended up building this harness off of this paper mache dog. We even nicknamed it Frog Dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's like, I spent like, 2 or 3 days like in my garage, like, okay, this worked. Nah, fuck, scrap this. Let's start over again. And then I came up with it. I was like, all right, good enough. Put it on my dog, and it worked. I put it on both my dogs, and like they're both drastically different sizes. And I was like, it kind of fits on both of them. So I think we should be good. So then I sent it in the mail, and like he put it on, like, showed videos, pictures of his dog using it. And he was like, dude, this is awesome. And this is a third of the weight of your, like, our supplier right now. It's like your major competitor. It's a third of the weight. I was like, holy shit. Didn't plan that. It's just, I knew it had to be lightweight, and I knew it had to be breathable, like all this stuff. And he was like, all right, so let me get my engineer on the phone. Like, we'll talk about this and, like, see if we want to go ahead with this. And ended up talking about it a little bit more. Like, obviously, like, each agency and each unit has like different needs. Cause like, whether you're doing search and rescue or like, a bomb sniffing dog, or like, like narcotics or whatever, it's like different needs, different types of dogs, different shapes and everything, like, different environments too.
Yeah.
So, they're like, okay, well, we like it, and we want to see, like, what we can do from here. But the thing that we like the most is that you guys can do custom one-offs. You can modify on the fly instead of like going to like a mass manufacturer where they're like, we're not going to stop production for a change. Like, we're going to continue on, and you'll either take it or not, or try a different one, But, like us being able to, like, change things on the fly, like, quick notice, like punch out, like, like a small batch and then change it up and do a different batch later. It's like, they're like, yeah. So, they're like, hey, we'd be willing to, like, have you guys like support our nonprofit too. So, Project Canine Hero, those guys have been awesome. So, like, everything that we sell, like, whether it's to them or to somebody else, like, like we give them like 10% of our, profit.
Oh, wow.
So it goes to their nonprofit. And
Cool.
what they do is they help dogs, because most of these canines are either like veterans from armed services or law enforcement. And like, a lot of people think like veterans are like, all right, humans, right? Like, Navy, Marine Corps, Army, Air Force, Space Force,
whatever is there now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Coast Guard. So like, everybody thinks of, like the humans, like the men and women, but everybody always forgets that they're canines too.
Yeah.
And the canines don't have the support like we do.
For sure.
So they get out and they're just like, all right, cool. They might not even have a home or, able to have, like, the rehab to get through it. And these guys, they take care of them. So they find them homes, they rehabilitate them so that they can interact with, like, other people, like other handlers, like families. They find good homes for them. They take care of them. So I think it's a just cause. Like, they're always overlooked.
Yeah.
And, we're just trying to help them out to highlight, them. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah,
They've been
big
awesome.
time.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So looking forward to collaborating with you guys a lot more.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of stuff in the future, dude.
Yeah.
You got, you're moving forward. And finally, both of us, I feel like we're finally moving forward healthily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah. The Juggernaut days, those were fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we survived them, and
Yeah.
we can help everybody else get through it whenever they start getting in dark spots.
Dude, and that's the thing. When I look back and I start getting like my guilt or my, I guess guilt's the best term for it, but just like sadness for what the things I've done. But then you think about, just this minuscule little thing, someone will come to me and make, oh, well, I got this going on. And I'm like, oh shit, dude. And if I'm able to help them in even just a tiny way, it starts to kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a religious background or if you believe in God, you start to understand that is not you. Like, that's not something that like you went through by yourself.
Yeah.
And then people go through similar things or things that have the same effect as them or shit, the exact same thing and have different effects. And then you all get to play your role later and you get to help other people and you get to be there, support them. You're understanding like your breakthroughs with your kids and then your personal relationships with your mom, like things like that. Yeah. Dude, it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Like, we're in our 30s and we're like, oh shit, we're finally growing up, dude.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, better late than never.
Yeah. Well, brother, we're on for 2 hours and almost 15 minutes.
Right on.
It's a perfect time to wrap it up. But dude, we've covered the gambit. And this has been a phenomenal episode. I'm really glad we got to do this. And you called it a blessing coming up here.
Yeah.
But I'm super thankful that you made the trip. You've made the trip up to see me several times, and it means a lot. So super glad we got to sit down and do this.
Yeah,
and
finally, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't even put out that many episodes, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, 200 episodes later, like this is like 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah.
But I think the people, I don't know how many subscribers are. I haven't really paid attention too much to the stats, but generally episodes get listened to about 100 to 150 times, or by 100 150 people, was where I'm at per episode. And so, dude, great messages for those people, and I think everyone's gonna enjoy the stories about being a SEAL, and everyone likes to hear a little bit of the combat side of things. But I appreciate you coming out with like the heartfelt side of what happens after.
Absolutely.
I think that's like the cap of. Everyone wants to hear the war story.
Yeah.
It's really hard to accept what happens later to other people.
Yeah, because everybody always thinks about like being a SEAL, or like, it's like, obviously like in the military, so people look at us and like, those are the fucking rock stars. Like that's who we want to be. Like those guys are badass. It's like, nah, we're in the Navy too. Like we are just like you guys. Like we all have a piece. This is what I say to everybody. It's like, we all have a piece of the puzzle. Mine might be a shiny piece, but without the other ones, you can't see what the hell's going on. I don't fucking matter, you know? So,
and
like, everybody has a place.
It's not only that, and the jobs do look shiny. That's funny you put it that way, you know, the shiny object.
Yeah.
But really, we're all just humans.
Exactly. Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, some people might feel better hanging their hat on SEAL versus like IT or MA or whatever. Like, okay. But at the end of the day, like, you go through life struggles just like that person.
Exactly.
And you have problems just like that person.
Yeah.
So I think the humanistic aspects gets drawn out when you hear the word SEAL.
Yeah.
Or the acronym.
Yeah.
So.
And that was just a small part of my life.
Yeah.
It's not my whole life.
Yeah, dude. Not the definition.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of people who are coming out from prominent communities, SF guys, SEAL community, just coming out and being real humans and being like, no, I'm broken. And I think it's great. It's fucking awesome to finally like get over I'm a fucking war fighting barrel chest, can't touch me. And then all of a sudden there's committing suicide and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And that hurts everybody. Everyone watching
Nobody knows until it's like right in your face.
Yeah, dude.
So I mean, like even me, it's like nobody knew that I was having problems because I always had a smile on my face.
Yeah. Always happy-go-lucky.
Yeah. It's like even going through buds, they tried to break it. I was like, oh, sorry, it's just my face. But
this is my resting happy face, dude.
Exactly. So whenever I started realizing, I started talking with a little bit more, like, they're like, oh shit, I didn't know you had problems.
Yeah.
And like things that I struggled with, on one of my platoons, like people talk to me years later and they're like, we had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, we just thought that you were untouchable. We thought that you were like doing awesome things and we were trying to keep up. And I was like, well, you guys treated me like shit because I did not feel like that at all.
Yeah.
And, talk with them later. I'm sorry, we had no idea.
Yeah, perspective.
Yeah. It's like I was dealing with my own shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So.
Well, do you want to put a plug in? Do you want to talk? Like, do you want to? I know you're still early in your company and you haven't hit, and you're focusing on the government side. But is there a way that people can look into what you're doing?
Yeah. So our website's like under construction right now.
Yep.
So but Trident Solutions LLC is like the LLC.
Mm-hmm.
We're like doing business as Trident Tactical Solutions.
Trident Tactical Solutions.
Yeah. Okay. So on Instagram and Facebook, you can find us. Just like communicate with us on there. Like throw on some images too. We got some stuff under the patent process right now, so we're trying not to give too much right away.
Yeah.
But Trident Solutions LLC should be able to find us. Got a logo of a trident. Or it's like a teardrop. It's blue with a trident on it. So there's that one. And then, so we can be reached at Lucas at TridentTacticalSolutionsLLC.com. That's my email. And then my partner is Tank. So John at TridentTacticalSolutionsLLC.com.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so through there, like you can communicate it with us, like on like custom stuff, like anything and everything. So we do, like I said, primarily like, textile type stuff. So like plate carriers, battle belts, mag pouches, holsters. Like we do dog stuff too. Like obviously like the harnesses, leashes, and then anything that you don't see or that you might have an idea on, whatever, like, send us a message or communicate with us, and we will, get back to you as soon as we can, because we're growing. Like,
Yeah, man.
We got many hats on right now. So,
Yeah. Early on stuff.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is as soon as you get your feet set and like some of the ball really, really rolling for
Yeah.
you, we'll come back and, it'll
Sounds
give me a
good.
great excuse to come down to Oregon and film a session.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can pimp it out hard and we'll talk just about that for as long as you want.
Right on.
Cool, brother. Well, I love you, man. And thanks for coming up.
I love you too, brother.
All right.
Yeah.